Chapter 40. The next day. Boss, don't sleep. Qing Lin. She was taken away. Chu Bei was still sleeping soundly when he was awakened by the little doctor's anxious cries. What happened? Chu Bei was awakened and hurriedly asked. Just now, Qing Lin and I went to buy groceries. On the way back, we met a group of men in black. One of the men in black seemed to have noticed something when he saw Qing Lin's eyes. Ignoring our struggles, he took Qing Lin away. The little doctor's eyes were filled with tears and her voice was sobbing. Do you know who took Qing Lin away? Chu Bei's face became gloomy. I don't know. After they knocked me to the ground, they took Qing Lin away. The little doctor bit her lips and remorse appeared on her face. I couldn't catch up with them, so I ran back immediately. Boss, you must save Qing Lin. I shouldn't have taken her out. Is the target Qing Lin? Chu Bei narrowed his eyes and seemed to have thought of something. His gaze focused and he said, I'm going out for a while. Primer auction house. Boss Chu, why are you here so early in the morning? I've already started to prepare for the auction that you asked me to hold. After I'm done here, I'll go back to the family. Yafei thought that Chu Bei had come for the auction and immediately summarized the preparations and plans that she had made. Where is the Mo family's residence? Chu Bei's voice was cold. Yafei's expression froze. After a while, she recovered and asked tentatively, Boss Chu, why are you asking this? Time is tight. If you know, tell me immediately. Chu Bei looked at Yafei calmly. At the end of Chongqing Street in the eastern suburbs, the first mansion is their temporary residence. Meeting Chu Bei's gaze, Yafei did not ask any more questions and immediately responded, Thank you. Chu Bei turned around and left as soon as he finished speaking. At the same time, in the Shao Mansion, in a luxurious and exquisite house. You've been absorbing my douqi for the past 3 years, turning me from a genius to a piece of trash? Although Xiao Yan's voice was cold, there was not much hatred in his eyes. The reason why he could be so calm was perhaps because not only had his cultivation returned, but it had also become even more powerful. If this was before he met Chu Bei, he would probably want to chop the culprit in front of him into pieces. In front of Xiao Yan's body, there was a black ancient ring floating in the air. Above the ring, a transparent old man's figure was floating. Little kid, you are much calmer than I thought. I thought you would be furious when you saw me. The transparent old man smiled as he stared at Xiao Yan. Xiao Yan let out a cold laugh. Old man, because of you, I have been ridiculed for the past 3 years. But if it weren't for those curses, I'm afraid I wouldn't have been able to completely understand this world and have the patience and wisdom I have now. So, don't you have to thank me? The old man laughed out loud. I'm curious. Why didn't you stay in the ring all the time? Why did you come out today? Xiao Yan looked at the old man's figure with interest. Could it be that there is no one to give you douqi and you can't hold on anymore? Since I've already awakened, I naturally don't need to absorb your douqi anymore. The old man stroked his beard. It's just that because of me, you have suffered a lot in the past 3 years. I feel guilty, so I want to help you become a real powerhouse. I have my own way to become stronger. I don't need to trouble you. Xiao Yan replied indifferently. Are you referring to that merchant? The old man narrowed his eyes. His methods are quite strange. Even I can't see through them. Although it seems that he can indeed make you stronger quickly, don't forget that he is a merchant. You only got what you wanted from him because you gave him money. With the financial resources of your entire Shao family, I'm afraid it will be difficult to support your future cultivation needs. Moreover, the continent is so big. You will always have to go out and gain experience. He can't always stay by your side. As for me, I can always stay by your side and guide you in your cultivation. Although your cultivation speed may not be as fast as his, it is better to take one step at a time and be more solid. The old man guided patiently. In addition, I can also make you the most famous alchemist in the continent. Alchemist? Xiao Yan's expression froze. In the douqi continent, as long as one was a person, they would want to become an alchemist. But the requirements to become an alchemist were extremely harsh. It is not easy to become an alchemist. In addition to having talent, you also need an experienced alchemist to guide you. Speaking up to here, Xiao Yan probed, could it be that you are also an alchemist? If not, Why would I say such words? The old man was quite proud. What grade? Xiao Yan's eyes were filled with curiosity. On the Doqi continent, although alchemists were rare, there was a clear ranking system. From the lowest to the highest, they were ranked from 1 to 9. In the Kama Empire's alchemist world, the most famous alchemist was Pilking Gu He. He was a 6th grade alchemist. You will know this in the future. But what I can tell you is that my alchemy skills are at the top even in the entire continent. The old man pretended to be mysterious and was incomparably confident. Dojapil, Dosherpil, can you refine them? Xiaoyan seemed to have thought of something and couldn't help but ask. Hearing Xiao Yan's words, the old man's expression became incomparably awkward. That guy's pills, although the effects are good, it is impossible to trace the origin of the medicinal herbs. It is like a wild pill. The old man replied, to put it bluntly, you can't refine it? Looks like your alchemy skills aren't that great. Chapter 41. At the end of East Suburbs Prosperous Street, a luxurious mansion was located here. In midair, a figure flashed past quickly and silently landed on the courtyard wall. Chu Bei scanned the mansion's environment expressionlessly. The reason why he targeted the Mo family was because the Mo family's ancestor once had a strange temperament alchemist. He was not very interested in traditional alchemy. Instead, he focused on studying some strange things. For example, he removed some strong claws or bones from some magical beasts and transplanted them into the human body. Other than that, once he discovered that some humans had a special physique or had some mutated organs, he would think of ways to capture them and transplant them into his own people, increasing their strength greatly. Coincidentally, Qing Lin's triple jade green snake flower pupils was different from ordinary people and easy to discover. Of course, what Chu Bei was most certain of was that in the original script, the Mo family had done something to Qing Lin. Not long after, Chu Bei saw a big patrolling man with a saber in his hand and armor in his line of sight. Who is it? At this moment, the patrolling man also noticed Chu Bei. He shouted and immediately pulled out the saber at his waist. Chu Bei's figure flashed and appeared in front of the patrolling man almost instantly. He stretched out his hand. Before the patrolling man could pull out the saber at his waist, he had already grabbed the other party's throat. Where is the woman that you captured earlier? Chu Bei's voice was cold and his eyes were filled with killing intent. Meeting Chu Bei's cold gaze, the patrolling man's face instantly turned pale. Cough, cough, cough. After a series of intense coughs, he finally managed to catch his breath. The patrolling man quickly said, Sir, I'm only a patrolling man of this mansion. Currently, this mansion is rented to the Mo family. As for what you're asking, I don't know at all. However, just now, the second miss brought a group of people to the small house by the lake. They might know something. The patrolling man was obviously a person who was afraid of death. He immediately revealed what he knew and hurriedly pointed out the direction of the small house. The killing intent in Chu Bei's eyes vanished. He turned his claw into a palm and struck the back of the patrolling man's neck, knocking him out. Soon, Chu Bei found the hut that the patrolling man had mentioned. At this moment, the door of the hut was wide open. When he arrived at the door, Chu Bei immediately saw Qing Lin tied to a chair. Her face was filled with panic, and she was dressed in green. Is this the legendary triple jade green snake flower pupils? Truly extraordinary. In addition to Qing Lin, there was a group of 7 people, led by a young woman. The woman wore a tight red dress with a small crystal pendant on her smooth forehead. As it swayed slightly, it added a touch of liveliness to her delicate and unruly face. Miss, do you think that the first elder will transplant these eyes to you? One of the guards looked at Mo Ling with a fawning expression. Seeing that Qing Lin was fine, Chu Bei's expression eased up. However, when he heard the guard's words, killing intent instantly surged to his face. Regardless of whether he's willing or not, these eyes are mine. Extending his hand to lift up Qing Lin's chin, Mo Ling locked his gaze onto Qing Lin's eyes, his gaze brimming with blazing desire. Have you asked me if you want her eyes? At this moment, a cold voice sounded from outside the house, following which, a series of unhurried footsteps entered the house. Audacious! Who are you? How dare you trespass into my Mo family's territory? Looking at the sudden appearance of Chu Bei, Mo Ling frowned and a whip appeared in her hand. The 6 guards behind her immediately circulated their dou qi. Boss. As for Qing Lin, when she saw Chu Bei, the fear on her face disappeared and was replaced with joy. She's your woman? Hearing how Qing Lin addressed Chu Bei, Mo Ling's face turned even uglier. Don't be afraid. You'll be able to return home in a while. Chu Bei ignored Mo Ling and walked towards Qing Lin. She's mine. No matter who you are, don't even think about taking her away. Realizing that she was being ignored, Mo Ling's whip turned into a black shadow and lashed towards Chu Bei. However, just as the whip was about to reach Chu Bei, a strand of dou qi shot out from the latter's fingertips and deflected the whip before shooting towards Mo Ling Qi. Accompanied by a miserable shriek, the dou qi sliced open Mo Ling's face. In an instant, fresh blood spurted out. A ghastly wound appeared on Mo Ling's face, causing her pretty face to be ruined. I want you dead. I want to shred you into 1,000 pieces. Mo Ling caressed her bleeding face and felt the deep wound. When she looked at Chu Bei again, her eyes were filled with hatred. This hatred was not due to the pain from the wound, but due to the fact that her face was ruined. Miss, I'll report this to the first elder. Seeing this, a guard shot a glance at Chu Bei before carefully walking towards the door. When he reached the door, he suddenly sped up and left. Chu Bei did not bother about the guard who had left. In any case, Mo Chung was also on the list of people that he had to kill. Kill him. Mo Ling seemed to have gone crazy as she waved the whip in her hand once again and roared at the guards behind her. Looking at the incoming guards, Chu Bei did not show any emotion as he dodged and pointed out a few times. Every time he pointed out, a strand of dou qi would shoot out from his fingertips and pierce through the forehead of the person closest to him. Plop, plop, plop. In just a few seconds, there were 6 more corpses at Chu Bei's feet. Amongst them, there was Mo Ling, who was holding onto a whip and had a face filled with hatred and unwillingness. She had died with her eyes wide open. Boss. Qing Lin's throat moved as she softly muttered. Facing the scene before her, the delicate and pitiful her seemed to be at a loss. Are you afraid of me? Chu Bei looked at Qing Lin calmly and pointed out again, cutting the rope that was binding Qing Lin. Hearing this, Qing Lin shook her head. I'm not afraid. Not afraid at all. Boss is a good person. Chu Bei smiled. They are all people that should be killed. Let's go. There are still some people waiting for us. After speaking, Chu Bei rubbed Qing Lin's head and carried her out of the house. At the same time, in the depths of the mansion, there was a spacious hall that was extremely lively and filled with a festive atmosphere. Congratulations to the first elder for obtaining the triple jade green snake flower pupils. With the triple jade green snake flower pupils, the first elder's strength will definitely soar. Perhaps it won't be long before we no longer need the Yunlan sect's protection and become a true overlord. In the hall, the core members of the Mo family who were passing by Wu-Tan City sat on the chairs with smiles on their faces. Chapter 42. I really didn't expect that this small Wu-Tan City actually hid such a treasure. I am really lucky. Sitting in the leader's seat was a white-haired old man in luxurious clothes. He was the Mo clan's great elder Mo Ching and also the pillar of the Mo clan. The Mo clan being able to have its current status was mostly due to his efforts. Great elder, something big has happened. Accompanied by a series of hurried footsteps, a figure rushed into the hall in a panic. How dare you? Don't you know where this is? Rushing in like this. In the hall, a middle-aged man stood up and shouted. Speak, what happened? Mo Chung frowned and coldly looked at the guard kneeling on the ground. Great elder, someone has barged in? He wants to take away the girl that you captured earlier and even injured Mississippi, the guard hurriedly said. What? There is actually someone who dares to barge into my territory in this small Wu-Tan city. Mo Chung fiercely slammed the table and with a loud sound, the table was smashed into pieces. Let's go and take a look. However, just as Mo Chung stood up and prepared to head to the small house by the lake, two figures walked into the hall at a moderate pace. Great Elder. It's him. Seeing Chu Bei, the guard's expression suddenly changed. What did you do to Miss? You can go and see her in a while. Chu Bei placed his hands behind his back, his eyes emitting a cold light, and his voice was calm. You killed Emoling? Hearing Chu Bei's words, Emo Cheng's expression instantly became gloomy to the extreme, and killing intent emerged in his eyes. Not only her, but all of you as well. Chu Bei's gaze swept across everyone in the hall, including Emo Cheng, and the Do Qi in his body gushed out. Doling Elite. Sensing the strong Do Qi wave released by Chu Bei, the Emo clan's core members in the hall had a shocked expression on their faces at the same time. They didn't expect that there was actually a Doling Elite in Wutan City. Due to the existence of the system, as long as Chu Bei didn't circulate his Do Qi, no matter how strong a person was, they wouldn't be able to determine his cultivation. It was only when Chu Bei deliberately released his Do Qi that the surrounding people could determine Chu Bei's cultivation level. Although you have really surprised me, you are ultimately only a 3-star Doling. Shock flashed across Emo Cheng's eyes. Soon after, he let out a cold cry, and a surging Do Qi ripple erupted. In terms of power and influence, it was even slightly stronger than Chu Bei's. First Elder, you must avenge the young miss. The guard, who was still kneeling on the ground, said. Emo Cheng glanced at the guard indifferently before his gaze returned to Chu Bei, following which, a sinister smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. In the next moment, Emo Cheng curled his body and his left arm shook violently. A ferocious hidden force tore his sleeves to shreds. On his half-exposed arm, blue veins bulged like small snakes. His palms and fingernails also expanded several times in an instant, and their color became incomparably black. Within a few breaths, Emo Cheng's originally normal arm had completely broken away from the shape of a human. It was more like the 4 limbs of some kind of magical beast. That is the mountain-breaking arm. The first Elder actually transplanted the front limbs of the rank 5 magical beast, the blazing flame mountain-breaking rhinoceros, into his body. With this mountain-breaking arm, even if that person's cultivation level is similar to the first Elder's, he would not be able to withstand a punch from the first Elder. Seeing Emo Cheng's large red arm, the core upper echelon of the Emo clan in the hall involuntarily cried out in surprise. Die! As the dense cold cry sounded, Emo Cheng's feet suddenly stepped on the pillar behind him. Immediately, his body shot towards Chu Bei like a cannonball. As he charged, the large palm that had expanded several times was pressed against the ground. The sharp fingers tore 5 deep gullies on the hard floor. It really is the first Elder's style. He never underestimates his enemy. The moment he attacks, he uses his strongest killing move. Seeing the terrifying strength that erupted from Emo Cheng's right arm, the faces of the remaining members of the Emo clan were shocked. Emo Cheng's speed was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, he had already appeared in front of Chu Bei. The large palm viciously swung downwards. The moment the palm was swung, the surrounding air seemed to have been smashed by this terrifying force, creating an ear-piercing sonic boom. However, Chu Bei, who was facing this palm, did not have any change in his expression. There was not the slightest bit of fear. Chu Bei did not dodge or avoid. He only waved his right hand, and a surging Do Qi sucked the wide blade in the hands of the guard not far away into his palm. Heaven-defying 7-demon blade. A low and deep voice was spat out from Chu Bei's mouth. At the same time, the wide blade in Chu Bei's hand danced rhythmically. Kacha, kacha. As the wide blade danced, a green dragon actually appeared on the originally ordinary hilt of the blade. Wherever the blade passed, a thin and long black lightning appeared, bringing with it endless dark demonic aura that came from nowhere and surged into the blade. Amidst the lightning and thunder, the blade crazily absorbed the demonic aura. Outside the blade, a cold blade glow was gradually formed. Furthermore, the blade glow quickly became longer and wider, faintly becoming substantial. Finally, the green dragon that appeared out of nowhere on the hilt of the blade also seemed to have come alive. The eyes of the dragon's head opened and closed continuously, faintly emitting a dragon's roar. As the black lightning around the wide blade disappeared, A clanging sound of metal resonated throughout the entire hall. At this moment, as the wielder of the blade, Chu Bei actually felt a sense of loss in his heart. An inexplicable feeling of invincibility rose in his heart. It was a kind of confidence, as if with a blade in hand, there was no hero in the world who could compete with him. Although he was not as strong as he thought, however, to have an indomitable aura that could even give up one's life, this was the mystery of the heaven-defying seven-demon blade. The heaven-defying seven-demon blade was a commodity that came from a plane called the Divine Mausoleum. It was worth 10,280 willpower points. It was also the strongest permanent blade technique that Chu Bei could exchange for with his current strength. Feeling the increasingly terrifying wide blade in Chu Bei's hand, Mo Cheng's expression gradually became serious. At the same time that the battle energy armor condensed on the surface of his body, the speed of his palm landing increased by a notch. Chu Bei wielded the blade and swung it out. With a swing of the blade, 7 blade glows shot out. The speed of the blade glows that appeared later was slightly faster than the previous one. Very quickly, these blade glows stacked together. With every stack, the aura of the blade glows would rise by a level. When the 7 blade glows stacked together again, the black lightning that had originally disappeared reappeared around the blade glows. In an instant, the aura rose to an unparalleled peak. Clang! The blade glows collided with Mo Cheng's mutated palm. The ear-piercing sound of metal clashing resounded. The energy ripples that were emitted shook the ground until countless gullies were formed, spreading far and wide. The members of the Mo family who were watching the battle in the hall immediately covered their ears. Each and every one of them was terrified. However, without waiting for the sound of metal clashing to disappear, Mo Cheng's miserable cries filled the entire hall. His mutated right arm was chopped into pieces by the blade glows, scattering all over the floor. Chapter 43. Great Elder. Witnessing this scene, the rest of the Mo family members in the hall exclaimed in shock. Their shouts were filled with anxiety and worry. However, under their fearful gazes, the terrifying gleam of the sword continued to sweep forward, not giving Mo Cheng any chance to dodge. Swoosh! The gleam of the sword flashed past. It directly pierced through the middle of Mo Cheng's eyebrows, following which it fiercely slashed at the wall far away. Accompanied by a loud bang, the wall of the hall was split into 2 halves. A terrifying crack that was a few meters wide appeared. Turning back to look at Mo Cheng, the originally upright body from the middle of his eyebrows to the middle of his legs was split into 2 and fell to the ground with a loud bang. Brain matter, intestines, and internal organs flowed all over the ground. The bloody scene was nauseating and unbearable to look at. Wretch! Qing Lin only took one look at Mo Cheng's corpse, and she almost vomited out everything in her stomach. Even the rest of the Mo family members in the hall, who had experienced countless scenes, could not help but cover their eyes with their hands. They did not dare to take another look at Mo Cheng's dead body. As for the guard who was closest to the corpse, he was already trembling in fear. A puddle of yellow liquid covered the surroundings. Gradually, there was a dead silence in the hall. Qing Lin, close your eyes first. Chu Bei's calm voice broke the silence. Okay. Qing Lin responded softly. When she heard Chu Bei's words, her tense expression seemed to have been released. Sir, this has nothing to do with us. The girl beside you was caught by the Great Elder alone. As for the rest of the people in the hall, after Chu Bei spoke, their eyes were filled with fear. Chu Bei ignored the pleas of the people in the hall. He raised his hand, and the sword fell. None of the Mo family members were kind people. There were countless people who died in their hands because of transplants. A few seconds later, Chu Bei carried Qing Lin and left, leaving behind a sea of blood. Qing Lin, are you all right? Inside the All Heavens shop, as soon as the little doctor saw Chu Bei and Qing Lin, she hurriedly put down what she was doing and ran up to Qing Lin, sizing her up. Sister Siener, with boss here, I'll be fine. Qing Lin replied softly. That's good, that's good. Hearing this, the little doctor patted her chest and let out a long sigh, as if a heavy stone had been lifted from her heart. Boss, who are the people who kidnapped Qing Lin? After calming down, the little doctor asked. A powerful family from the northeast. They specialize in hunting those who are different from ordinary people, Chu Bei replied. Are you saying that they have their eyes on Qing Lin's triple jade-green snake flower pupils? Little doctor immediately thought of the reason why Qing Lin had been captured. Yes. Chu Bei nodded slightly. Thud, thud, thud. Just as the little doctor was about to say something, a series of hurried footsteps came from outside the door. Then, an old man with a head full of white hair walked in. Boss Chu, I'm here to see you. The address you left is true, which makes me believe your words a little more. This white-haired old man was naturally the Ice Emperor Hypedon, who had stayed behind to guard the desert city. I'm a businessman. My #1 motto is to be honest and trustworthy. Why would I lie to you? As soon as he finished speaking with a smile, Chu Bei gave Qing Lin a look, indicating for her to pour a cup of tea for Hypedon. I'm sure you know why I'm here. Hypedon took the tea and said, then let's make it short. Let's start with 20 times. With that, Hypedon took out 16 million gold coins from his storage ring. Chu Bei gave a knowing smile and was also straightforward and efficient. With a wave of his sleeve, a golden disc appeared with a hum, emitting a blinding light. At the top of the disc, the words Level 6 Wheel of Fortune were engraved. The system obtained 160,000 willpower. The host received 80,000 willpower. The system's voice sounded. The needle turned. Ding. Amidst the crisp sounds, 20 exquisite square boxes were placed in front of by Buodong one after another. Because of his previous experience, Hypedon knew the probability of winning the lottery. In addition to anticipation, there was also some nervousness in his eyes. Bang! The 20 boxes exploded at the same time. Boss Chu, this? Looking at the 20 boxes lined up in front of him with the words, thank you for your patronage, Hypedon was stunned. Last time, at least one of the 20 boxes had a piece of silver armor that could defend against all attacks from a 3-star Do Wong. But this time, the 16 million gold coins didn't even make a splash. The host has encountered the first buyer with less than 5 luck. As a consolation reward, the probability of winning the next wheel will be increased to 100%. Chu Bei was just about to comfort Hypedon when the system's voice suddenly sounded in his mind. Boss Chu, as a businessman, can you give me an explanation? I trusted you so much, but this is the result I got in return? Hippodon's face was extremely gloomy. If he hadn't been taken advantage of before, he really wanted to use force to force the other party to hand over the treasures he needed. Forget it. Forget it. Seeing that you went through so much trouble to come here from the desert city, I'll make an exception for you today. Chu Bei pretended to be speechless inside. You can turn 2 more wheels. This time, I guarantee you'll win. As his voice fell, Chu Bei looked at the pitiful person in front of him, who was judged by the system to have less than 5 luck. Is it really a sure hit? Hypedon was stunned at first, then his face was filled with joy and excitement. Then I'll turn 2 more wheels. If I can really recover my cultivation, it'll be worth it even if I have to go bankrupt. Hypedon took out 16 million gold coins again. The system has gained 160,000 willpower. The host has gained 80,000 willpower. According to the host cultivation, the host has reached the limit of gold coins sold today. The system's voice sounded. The needle turned. Ding. In the crisp sound, 20 exquisite square boxes were placed in front of Hypedon one after another. Boom. The 20 square boxes exploded. Except for the first square box, which was engraved with the strange 9-pointed formation pattern of stars, the other 19 boxes were all the same. Thank you for your patronage. Above the 9-sided rune, the words reverse seal formation were shining with a brilliant radiance. Boss Chu, this is the formation pattern that you said can break my seal. Hippodon's eyes were fixed on the 9-pointed formation pattern. His eyes filled with passion. That's right. Chu Bei responded and told him how to use it. Boss Chu, actually, I don't need to buy 2 sets. I can win just by buying one. After Hypedon murmured, he carefully placed his palm on the seal formation. Hum. A ripple appeared. The strange formation pattern first appeared under Hippodon's feet. Then the eye of the formation released tens of thousands of bright lights, pouring into Hippodon's body from bottom to top. In an instant, Visible changes occurred in Hippodon's body. The tens of thousands of bright lights instantly covered Hippodon's limbs and bones. Under these lights, the snake seal that was originally hidden in Hippodon's body was instantly destroyed, disappearing without a trace. In less than a few seconds, Hippodon's aura began to rise, becoming stronger and stronger. Chapter 44. Rumble. An incomparably terrifying energy burst out from Bai Buodong as the center. An ear-piercing do-chi storm formed in the room, tearing through the air. However, just as this energy storm formed, two red lights shot out from the eyes of the iron lump, Xiao He, who was quietly standing in the corner not far away. Under these two red lights, the energy storm around Hypedon was instantly suppressed and annihilated. Who, after a long time, Hypedon slowly opened his eyes. "Thank you." Hypedon, who had recovered his cultivation to 5 stars of Do Huang, seemed to have changed into a different person. Black hair replaced the white hair from before, and his skin had also become smooth. He seemed to be in high spirits. "You are the buyer, and I am the seller. It is a fair trade. There is no need to thank me." Chu Bei calmly replied. "Although that is the case, a seller like you can only be found by chance. If it were not for you, I am afraid that I would not have been able to return to the Do Huang realm until my death." Hypedon clearly became more polite to Chu Bei. He clenched his fists and bowed deeply before looking at the iron lump in the corner. "That is?" Bai Buodong asked probingly. There was a tinge of fear in his eyes. Previously, when his cultivation had recovered, he had intended to test Chu Bei's strength. For this reason, he did not suppress the energy storm. Unexpectedly, the seemingly unremarkable iron lump made a move before Chu Bei. What made his heart palpitate was that the moment the two red lights shot out, although he could not feel any do-chi fluctuations, there was a strange, invisible force that restrained them. Under that force, even though he had recovered his peak cultivation, he still could not summon the slightest bit of courage. It was a kind of instinctive fear. "My shop's housekeeper." Chu Bei looked at Xiao He and said casually, "Boss Chu is really a strange person. Even your shop's housekeeper is different from the rest." Hypedon once again cupped his hands towards Chu Bei. "Boss Chu, I still have things to do. When I am free, I will visit again. Remember, as long as you have money, no matter what you want, I have it here." Looking at Hippodon's back, Chu Bei smiled. Hippodon's footsteps paused. Then he waved his hand and smiled. "You must be a frequent customer." Not long after Bai Buodong left, Chu Bei took out 150,000 of the 160,000 points of willpower and used them to exchange for his cultivation. From a Doling 3 stars to a Doling 6 stars. As for the remaining 10,000, it was used for emergencies. As time passed, news of the Mo clan's annihilation began to spread out. "Have you heard? The number 1 mansion on eastern Zhejiang's prosperous street was destroyed." "Of course we know. The news has already spread." Over the years, those who were able to live in that mansion were not small. Do you know who lived there this time? As far as I know, it was the Mo clan. Mo clan? One of the 4 great clans in the northeast? Other than them, which other Mo clan in the Jiama Empire? Oh my god. Looks like the person who killed them is not an ordinary person. Unfortunately, we don't know who this person is. Every street, restaurant, tea house, as long as there were people, they couldn't avoid this topic. Primer auction house in front of the door. Yafei was standing on the back of a second-rank flying beast. What? The Mo clan are all dead. Hearing the news from the guard, Yafei's charming face flashed with a trace of astonishment. What kind of enmity did they have? After the shock, Yafei looked into the distance and whispered, "Yafei, do you know something?" Master Gu and I on the side seemed to have heard something, and his gaze fell on Yafei, full of doubt. Yafei took a deep breath and shook her head. She hurriedly changed the topic. "I still have important matters to attend to. Let's hurry back to the clan." Xiao Mansion in the main hall. The core members of the Xiao family sat upright. Xiao Zhan sat at the head of the table. On both sides of him were the 3 elders of the Xiao family. As for Xiao Yin, he sat at the last seat on the right. This Mo clan is one of the 3 great clans in the northeast. This time around, There were many strong people, especially the first elder Emocheng. His cultivation is already a Doling 5-star. Xiao Zhan's gaze swept across the 3 elders beside him. The person who killed them is at least a Doling 6-star. When did such a strong person appear in our Wu-Tan city? If my guess is correct, the person who killed them should have been following them all the way. It was only after they landed in Wu-Tan city that they decided to act. The first elder guessed, "Clan leader, I'm afraid you've forgotten that the strong people that appeared in our Wu-Tan city are not limited to Doling," the third elder said. "You're talking about Boss Chu?" With the third elder's reminder, Xiao Zhan's expression changed. But this Boss Chu has been in Wu-Tan city for many years. Logically speaking, he shouldn't have any interactions with the Emo clan. Why would he want to kill them? Xiao Zhan raised his confusion. "I didn't say that he killed the Emo clan," the third elder replied. Ta-ta-ta. At this moment, accompanied by the sound of hurried footsteps, a guard quickly ran into the main hall. This guard respectfully bowed towards Xiao Zhan and then gave the second elder a look. "How's the investigation?" The second elder looked at the guard and asked faintly, "Elder, that young girl is indeed related to Boss Chu." The guard replied, "As expected." Hearing the guard's reply, the second elder put down the tea in his hand. "Do you know something?" Not only Xiao Zhan, but the other clan members in the main hall also looked at the second elder. "In the morning, my subordinate saw the Emo clan catch a young girl on the street. Coincidentally, that young girl was with the little doctor. Although we have some friendship with the little doctor, he also recognized that she was from the Emo clan and didn't dare to act rashly. After all, the Emo clan isn't something that our Xiao family can offend." The second elder leisurely said, "I thought that young girl was only a friend of the little doctor. I didn't think that she would have an unusual relationship with Boss Chu. Why didn't you say this earlier?" Hearing this, Xiao Zhan's face darkened. "Fortunately, that girl is fine. Otherwise, our Xiao family would be implicated." Speaking up to here, Xiao Zhan's gaze swept across all the clan members in the main hall. "In the future, if there is anything that involves Boss Chu or the people around him, report it to me immediately." Kama Sacred City, the capital of the Kama Empire. In terms of area, it was dozens, or even hundreds of times the size of Wu-Tan City. Even though it was already evening, the streets of the city were still very lively with people coming and going. In the western district of the Sacred City, there was a large and imposing mansion. The words primer were especially clear on the plaque on the gate of the mansion. Regardless of whether it was outside or inside the mansion, there were armored guards holding spears patrolling very seriously. The Primer clan was one of the 3 great clans of the Kama Empire. Their Primer auction house was located in all the major cities of the empire and was quite prestigious. Chapter 45. Primer Family Headquarters, Main Hall. "Yefei, are you joking with me? You want me to hold a heaven-level auction in a remote place like Wu-Tan City? And you want me to use all the power of the family to publicize it?" An old man in a luxurious robe sat at the head of the hall. He frowned. If he really has such a treasure, then let him sell it in the imperial capital. It's impossible for me to hold a heaven-level auction in a small city like Wu-Tan City. The old man in the luxurious robe was called Ting Shan. He was the head of the Primer family and one of the top 10 experts of the Kama Empire. "Yefei, your request is simply nonsense. What kind of status does our Primer family have in the Kama Empire? Moreover, how much do you know about that person? I'm afraid he's just a swindler." Another old man in the hall said, "If you don't want to train outside, then come back quickly. Head elder, please believe me this once. This auction will definitely raise the reputation of our Primer family to a higher level in the Kama Empire." Yefei bit her lips lightly. Her gaze was fixed on Tang Shan with a pleading look. "I won't change my mind. This is impossible." Tung Shan refused again without hesitation. "Tung Shan, if you don't listen to her, then will you listen to me?" Just as Yefei's face was filled with loneliness and unwillingness, a light voice floated in from outside the hall. Immediately after, a figure flashed and appeared in the hall. "How dare you? Who are you? How dare you trespass into our Primer family's residence? Take him down." A group of juniors in the hall coldly shouted, and immediately grabbed their weapons. On the other hand, when the elders with great prestige in the family saw the appearance of the figure, their expressions changed drastically. This included Tung Shan, who was sitting at the head of the table. After they recovered from their shock, they hurriedly stood up from their chairs. Their expressions became incomparably respectful. "Hi, Elder Hai. I didn't expect to see you again." Tung Shan's expression began to become excited. "When you left and didn't return, we used all of our strength but still couldn't find any trace of you. Something happened these past few years, so I went into seclusion. But now, everything is fine." The person who had suddenly barged into the hall was none other than the Ice Emperor Hypedon, whose cultivation had recovered. Hypedon sat in the seat that Tung Shan had occupied earlier. He sipped a mouthful of tea and said, "It is unexpected that you have already become an elite Do Wang after not seeing you for so many years. You've managed the Primer family well. You can continue to manage it in the future." "Thank you for your praise, Old Hai." In front of Hypedon, Tung Shan didn't look like the head of one of the three major clans of the empire, but more like a child facing his elders. At this moment, the younger generation in the hall were all stunned by the scene before them. They looked at each other in dismay. It was hard for them to imagine that the first elder, who was usually extremely strict with others, would actually show such a respectful expression in front of this person who had suddenly intruded. They couldn't help but guess the identity of Hypedon in their hearts. Elder Hai has been gone for dozens of years. Even if you can't recognize him, you shouldn't have forgotten the name of the Ice Emperor, an elder said to the younger generation. He is the Ice Emperor." After knowing Hippodon's identity, the younger generation opened their mouths wide. Their gazes towards Hypedon were filled with worship. "Old Hai, what did you say before?" Tung Shan seemed to have recalled something. Hypedon looked at the somewhat nervous Yafei and said with a gentle tone, "You are called Yafei, right? I will give you the authority to use all the clan's resources for Boss Chu's auction. You must do it to the best of your ability." Yafei was surprised at first, but when she reacted, she was pleasantly surprised and said, "Are you saying that the Primer family can hold a heaven auction in Wutan City?" Hypedon nodded and replied, "Not only must you hold it, but you must also let all the forces in the Kama Empire, including the royal family, know about this auction." At this point, Hypedon looked at Tung Shan and said, "If there is anything you need him to do, feel free to call upon him." Yes. Yafei nodded heavily. The jade hands in her sleeves trembled with excitement. "Old Hai, do you know the Boss Chu that Yafei mentioned?" Not only Tung Shan, but the other elders in the hall also had the same puzzled expression. "I have had some contact with him." Hypedon put down the tea in his hand. Although he lives in a small place like Wutan City, he is not simple and is full of mysteries. For people like him whose origins are unknown, we must not be enemies with them. We can only be friends with them. Moreover, indirectly speaking, he can be considered my benefactor. Even Old Hai has to pay attention to someone. How could I dare to provoke him? Tung Shan looked at Yafei and said, "I will immediately use all the clan's power to publicize this auction." "Thank you, great elder." Yafei's face was filled with joy. "Then I will withdraw first to prepare other matters." Wutan City. On the wide street, a middle-aged man wearing a gorgeous robe walked quickly with an angry face. On his left and right were two white-haired old men and a young girl wearing a moon-white dress. Not long after this group arrived in the city, they became the focus of discussion on the streets. "Hey, isn't that Nalan Yinran? Why did she come back again?" In my opinion, it must be because of the annulment of the engagement a few days ago. Speaking of which, how is that annulment? It was obviously annulled. But then again, who would have thought that Xiao Yin was pretending all these years? He really played the pig to eat the tiger to the extreme. Look, who is that man beside Nalan Yinran? He looks a bit like Nalan Yinran. Could it be his father, the Empire's great general? If it is really him, then there will be a good show to watch. He must be going to the Xiao family to reason. Reason? I'm afraid they will fight. Let's go, quickly follow them. Although the sky was getting darker, because of the arrival of Nalan Su's group, the streets became more noisy and lively. Groups of pedestrians gathered together, spittle flying everywhere. Damn it! Listening to the discussion about Nalan Yinran, Nalan Su clenched his fists, the anger in his eyes grew, and his feet sped up. Kama Empire, Northeast, Yin City, Imo Manor. Are you sure that Ling Er and the Great Elder were killed by that merchant? In the main hall of the manor, a middle-aged man smashed the table beside him with a fist, his voice filled with killing intent. Master, this is what I found out after many inquiries. It is definitely not wrong. A black-clothed man said respectfully. The girl that was caught by the Great Elder has the triple jade-green snake flower pupils. If he can kill the Great Elder, he must be at least a 6-star Doling. Imo Land's eyes were cold in the forest. If we want to take revenge, just us alone is not enough. We still have to go to the Yunlan sect. Chapter 46. All Heaven's Shop. Just as Chu Bei was enjoying the dinner prepared by the little doctor and Qing Lin, Xiao Yin quickly ran in. Boss Chu, Nalan Yinran brought her father here to cause trouble. Xiao Yin went straight to Chu Bei's side and pulled out a chair to sit down. With a pleading look on his face, he said, "Please come with me and take a look." Nalan Su is here? Chu Bei put down his chopsticks. He's already in the mansion. Xiao Yin was clearly anxious. If you don't go now, I'm afraid something bad will happen to my Xiao family. At this time, Chu Bei seemed to have noticed something and pointed to the ring that Xiao Yin had put back on his middle finger. He's awake? Xiao Yin was stunned and then pretended to be at a loss. Boss Chu, what are you talking about? Who is he? Chu Bei smiled knowingly, a playful look on his face. You're still too inexperienced to play dumb in front of me. Let him come out. Your Excellency's perception is really sharp. Without waiting for Xiao Yin to open his mouth, an old voice drifted across the room. Then, a transparent old man's figure appeared. The little fairy doctor and Qing Lin were obviously shocked when they saw the old figure that appeared abruptly like a ghost. Their mouths were wide open. Do you still have hatred in your heart? Chu Bei calmly looked at the old man. What does your excellency mean? The old man frowned. How does it feel to be betrayed by a disciple you've raised since childhood? Chu Bei continued to ask. You know me? Hearing Chu Bei's words, the old man's expression suddenly changed, his aura rising and his face darkening. Yao Chen, a disciple of the Yao clan, but because he failed a mission when he was young, he was expelled from the Yao clan by his elders who couldn't distinguish right from wrong. After that, he became the continent's #1 alchemist, an 8th grade high-grade profound pill alchemist grandmaster. Other than that, you also possess the bone freezing fire, which is ranked 11th on the heavenly flame ranking. You are also the pavilion master of Xingyun Gu in the central region. You are also known as the medicine lord. However, you actually prefer others to call you Yao Lao. At this point, Chu Bei sighed faintly. It's a pity that in the end, he was betrayed by his adopted disciple and died. Fortunately, his soul was strong and the bone-freezing fire was able to preserve his soul. From time to time, Chu Bei would pick up some delicacies with his chopsticks and throw them into his mouth. Every time he spoke, the transparent elder's body would tremble. Enough. Who are you? In the end, the transparent elder could not help but interrupt with a cold shout. His gaze was fixed on Chu Bei. Chu Bei smiled. I'm just a merchant who can fulfill all your wishes and fantasies as long as you have money. Naturally, this includes letting you regain your physical body. Boss Chu, we'll talk about this later. You should follow me home first. Yao Chen was about to say something when Xiao Yin could not help but speak up first. Forget it. Let's go watch the show first. Chu Bei smiled. He then wiped the greasy corner of his mouth and walked out of the house. Qing Lin hesitated for a moment. When she saw the little doctor following Chu Bei's footsteps, she hurriedly chased after them. When Chu Bei and the rest arrived at the Xiao residence, the entrance of the Xiao residence was already crowded with people who wanted to watch the show. If it were not for the guards with weapons stopping them, they would have already broken into the Xiao residence. Look, Xiao Yin is there. Why is Boss Chu here too? Boss Chu is a great person. He must be here to be the peacemaker. Yeah, if it were not for Boss Chu's antidote, our Wutan city would have become an empty city. When the crowd in front of the Xiao residence saw Chu Bei arrive, they all moved aside with gratitude in their eyes. Sister Xian Air, they seem to be very respectful to the boss. Qing Lin's face was filled with confusion. The boss is the benefactor of the entire Wu Tan city. As for what he did, I'll tell you in detail when we get back. Little Doctor pretended to be mysterious. Where is that brat Xiao Yin? Tell him to come out. In the depths of the Xiao residence, Chu Bei had just passed through a blue stone path when he heard a furious roar. The person who roared was naturally Nailan Su. Gu Yi and Nailan Yinran were standing on either side of him. As for Xiao Zhan, first elder, second elder, and the rest of the Xiao family, they were facing Nailan Su with a serious expression. What? You're not convinced of your loss, so you invited the old one here? Xiao Yin cleared his throat and a mocking laugh floated in the air. Hearing Xiao Yan's words, Nailan Yinran's body trembled and her face turned ugly. Xiao Zhan, is this the good son you taught? Nailan Su's gaze instantly shifted to Xiao Yin. His fists were clenched and his veins were exposed. Brother Nailan, you should know the reason for the incident that day. What Yin Air did, I don't think there was anything wrong with it. Seeing that Chu Bei had also arrived with Xiao Yin, Xiao Zhan, first elder, and the rest of the Xiao family's faces obviously eased a lot, as if they had found a backer. What is the status of your Xiao family? What is the status of my Nailan family now? Nailan Su coldly looked at Xiao Zhan. You allowed this brat to do such a thing to Yin Ran. How will she put her face in the future? If this matter spreads to the capital in the future, won't my Nailan family be ridiculed? Uncle Nailan, when your precious daughter came to visit, did you think about my Xiao family's face? Xiao Yan's eyes met Nailan Su's. If I was still a waste that day, I'm afraid the ones being ridiculed now would be my Xiao family. It's meaningless to talk about this. Nailan Su coldly snorted. Since my daughter lost to you, then as her father, I naturally have to help her vent her anger. Speaking up to here, Nailan Su glanced at Xiao Zhan and continued, of course, if you lose, you can also let your father fight for you. Cold in the forest's voice fell. Nailan Su's right foot suddenly stomped on the ground, and a tyrannical Do Chi suddenly came out of his body. Then, his body shot towards Xiao Yin like a cannonball. At the same time, his right hand formed a fist, and the surface of his fist was wrapped in a layer of fierce Do Chi. The friction with the air produced bursts of ear-piercing sounds. Nailan Su's speed was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, he had already appeared in front of Xiao Yin and fiercely punched down. However, facing a terrifying punch that was far above his own, Xiao Yan's expression didn't change, and there wasn't the slightest trace of fear in his eyes. He just quickly took 2 steps back and hid behind the person beside him. Get lost. Looking at Chu Bei, who was blocking in front of him, Nailan Su didn't slow down in the slightest. He only shouted and then waved his left hand, and a tyrannical Do Chi gushed out. But what made him astonished was that under the wind from his palm, not only did the man blocking in front of Xiao Yin not move, but he also raised his left palm and met his right fist neither too fast nor too slow. Bang! The fist and the palm collided. A low muffled sound was heard. Nailan Su's forward figure suddenly stopped, and then as if he had received a shock, he took a few steps back and dragged a long mark on the ground. Chapter 47. 6-Star Douling. After Nailan Su stabilized his body, he stared at Chu Bei with a serious face and blurted out Chu Bei's cultivation. Half a month ago, his cultivation had already broken through to 5-Star Douling. Although he had originally intended to use that punch to deal with Xiao Yin and had held back some of his strength, after sensing the power in Chu Bei's palm, he immediately gathered all the strength in his body into his fist. But even so, he was still at a disadvantage in this collision. Douling, I'm afraid that you have some misunderstanding about Boss Chu's strength. Xiao Yin came out from behind Chu Bei and sneered at Nailan Su. It's you. At this time, Nailan Yinran and Gu Yi seemed to have recognized Chu Bei and exclaimed, You know him? Nailan Su turned his head and looked at Nailan Yinran and Gu Yi. Xiao Yin and Xiao Zhan also cast a puzzled look. In their memory, on the day that Nailan Yinran came to visit, Chu Bei did not directly interact with them. Father, that day when we just left the Xiao mansion, this person chased after us and threatened that as long as we had money, He could let me defeat Xiao Yin the next day and wash away this shame. Nalan Yenran looked at Chu Bei, but at that time, we thought that he was a liar and chased him away. Hearing Nalan Yenran's words, Xiao Yan's, Xiao Zhan's, and the others' gazes once again returned to Chu Bei. Their gazes carried some strangeness. It was as if they were saying, Boss Chu, you are not honest. At that time, I was just joking. Sensing Xiao Yan's gaze, Chu Bei coughed dryly, trying to resolve the awkwardness. Yo, it's quite lively here. Just as Chu Bei's awkward words fell, a clear and cold voice suddenly rang out. Then, a figure suddenly appeared on the roof not far away. It was a woman in a long green robe. Although the veil on her cheeks covered most of her appearance, just by looking at the corner of her lips, one could tell that her appearance was not bad. At this moment, the green-robed woman crossed her arms in front of her chest and stared at Chu Bei and his group as if she was watching a show. Do Huang. The pupils of Nalan Su, and the others shrunk abruptly when they saw the green-clothed lady with the almost solid Do Chi wings on her back and the terrifying Do Chi fluctuation that caused a ripple to form in the air. Xiao Zhan, the first elder, and the second elder looked at each other, their eyes filled with shock. How can a small city like Wu Tian have a Do Huang? Guye's gaze locked onto the green-clothed lady. Even in the entire Kama Empire, the number of Do Huangs could be counted with one's fingers. Even for him, other than the sect leader, it was extremely rare for him to meet a Do Huang. But now, in the Shao Mansion, a Do Huang of unknown origin had suddenly appeared out of thin air. This kind of strong person needs to be reported to Master. Perhaps Shizhuan knows her origins. Nalan Yenran softly muttered, cautiously sizing up the green-clothed lady on the roof. I have come into contact with a similar aura as her. At this moment, Yao Lao's voice sounded in Xiao Yan's ears. Hearing Yao Lao's words, Xiao Yan's heart trembled slightly. From Boss Chu's words, Yao Lao was once quite famous on the continent and was not someone from the Kama Empire. In other words, the green-clothed lady on the roof came from a superpower outside of the Kama Empire. Is she just passing by? Xiao Yan looked at the green-clothed lady, his face filled with vigilance. Don't worry, isn't Boss Chu here? Yao Lao's voice sounded again. May I know why Senior Do Huang has appeared in our Shao Mansion? Xiao Zhan cupped his hands towards the green-clothed lady, his face filled with respect. I just happened to pass by and heard some commotion here, so I came to take a look. The green-clothed lady waved her hand. Just as she finished speaking with a smile, she seemed to have discovered something and her gaze instantly locked onto Qing Lin. At first, she was slightly stunned, but then her face filled with joy and excitement. The sudden excitement on his face was as if he had found a treasure. On the other hand, Qing Lin subconsciously took 2 steps back when she met the green-clothed lady's passionate gaze, her face filled with fear. On the roof, the green-clothed lady's hands suddenly moved, quickly forming a seal. Boom! With a loud sound, the ground around Chu Bei, Xiao Yin, and the little doctor suddenly burst open. In the next moment, countless wide green tree trunks emerged from the ground and intertwined with each other at lightning speed. In the blink of an eye, they formed a wooden prison, tightly sealing Chu Bei and the other 2 within. This sudden turn of events caused everyone present, including Nalan Su and Xiao Zhan, to be stunned. They couldn't understand why this mysterious Do Huang would suddenly attack them. Shio. Before everyone could recover, the green-clothed lady rushed out, her figure flashing across the roof. When he reappeared, he was already on the ground. He stretched out his arms and pulled Qing Lin, who was outside the wooden prison, into his arms. Shio. The sound of breaking air sounded again. Under everyone's gaze, the green-clothed lady brought Qing Lin back to the roof. It really is the triple jade-green snake flower pupils. Looking at the 3 Xiao Hei dots around Qing Lin's pupils, the green-clothed lady nodded with satisfaction and softly muttered, You let go of me. Qing Lin struggled with all her might. Fear surfaced on her small face, like a bird startled by the twang of a bow. Little one, don't be nervous. I can't bear to hurt you. The green-clothed lady extended her hand and gently stroked Qing Lin's small face. Let go of Qing Lin. The little doctor clenched her fist and stared intently at the green-clothed lady. A black fog faintly appeared on the surface of her body. "Your name is Qinglin? Sounds good." The green-clothed lady glanced at the little doctor before her gaze returned to Qinglin. "Boss, save me." Qinglin gently bit her lips and looked at Chu Bei in the wooden prison with a pleading gaze. "Little one, meeting me is your fortune. I will bring you to a place that is truly suitable for you." Speaking until this point, the green-clothed lady looked at Chu Bei and said, "You will only waste your talent if you follow him. Moreover, he is only a 6-star Do Ling. Forget about him. Even if your Kama Empire's Do Huang were to come, he would not be able to snatch you from my hands." "Boss." Hearing the green-clothed lady's words, Qinglin softly called out again. However, she seemed to be worried about something and swallowed the words that were about to come out of her mouth. "Qinglin, you are really in high demand?" A voice that carried a smile was spat out from Chu Bei's mouth. Unknowingly, a long and thin sword-like blade had appeared in Chu Bei's hand. The handle of the blade was engraved with a strange spiral pattern. At the place where the blade and the handle joined, there were 2 overlapping cherry blossom patterns. Buzz. The blade trembled slightly. Numerous cherry blossom petals scattered from the blade and danced in all directions. The cherry blossom petals looked ordinary and unremarkable. However, the moment it touched the wooden prison, it instantly turned into a sharp blade and shattered the sturdy wooden prison. Chapter 48. He actually broke the seal of a Do Huang. How is this possible? Looking at the wooden prison that was shattered by the cherry blossoms, Nayland Su's pupils shrank and his face was filled with shock. In terms of cultivation, he was also a Do Ling and was only 1 star lower than the other party. However, he did not have the confidence to break through the seal of a Do Huang like the other party. "Father, what's with the thin blade in his hand? There is no Do Qi fluctuation." Nayland Yinran felt that something was wrong as her beautiful eyes stared at the blade in Chu Bei's hand. Nayland Su did not reply. He only frowned as he did not understand what was going on. Xiao Zhan, Xiao Yin, first elder, second elder, and the rest of the Xiao family were not too shocked. It seemed that in their eyes, everything was reasonable. "You have overturned my understanding of Do Ling. Interesting." On the roof, the green-clothed lady looked at Chu Bei with surprise. Clearly, she did not expect the latter to be able to shatter her wooden prison. Not to mention a Do Ling. Even a Do Wang would need to continuously attack for a few hours to break her wooden prison. Unexpectedly, the former was destroyed in an instant. As her voice fell, the green-clothed lady waved her hand and a sharp wooden stake that was covered by a majestic Do Qi suddenly rose and shot towards Chu Bei. However, before the wooden stake could reach Chu Bei, it was hit by a cherry blossom. Qi. In an instant, the sharp wooden stake was shattered into sawdust and fell from the sky. Seeing this scene, the green-clothed lady frowned. Other than shock, there was also a trace of seriousness in her eyes. After a long while, the green-clothed lady let out a low cry and a surge of blue Do Qi that was filled with coldness violently surged out from her body. Suddenly, the temperature of the entire space suddenly dropped. At the same time, on the roof, cracks quickly spread from the tip of the green-clothed lady's feet and finally spread all the way to the ground. Several houses that were connected to each other were on the verge of collapse. Sensing the power released by the green-clothed lady, whether it was Nayland Su, Gu Yi, Xiao Zhan, or the first elder, all of their faces became incomparably serious. They knew that the green-clothed lady in front of them, who had stepped into the Do Huang realm, was serious. When the green-clothed lady's rising aura stabilized, her hands spread out and 10 emerald green thorns energy whips shot out from her fingers. In the next moment, these energy whips spread out and shot towards Chu Bei from different directions, completely covering the space that he could dodge. Chu Bei glanced indifferently at the energy whips around him. His face was still calm, but his right hand that was holding the hilt of his saber trembled slightly. Suddenly, with a clear sound, a white halo with the blade as the center rapidly expanded the blade. Qi! The white halo expanded the white light green-clothed lady in a blink of an eye, the green-clothed ladies. A sharp, ear-piercing sound rang out as the 10 energy whips exploded at the same time, each bringing with it a terrifying energy storm. At the same time, the green-clothed ladies. After the energy whips were defeated, the white halo suddenly condensed into a white light pillar with a diameter of half a meter and shot towards the green-clothed lady. The eyes of the green-clothed woman shrunk abruptly as she watched the white-colored light pillar that did not have any doji ripple but caused one's heart to palpitate for no reason. Without any hesitation, her hands quickly formed a complicated seal. Bang! The white light pillar bombarded the green-clothed lady's body. In the loud sound, there was a glaring light. However, under everyone's gaze, the thing that exploded with a bang was not the green-clothed lady but a piece of rotten wood. Poochie. When the green-clothed lady appeared in front of everyone again, her face was already pale, and there was still a trace of blood at the corner of her mouth. Clearly, although she had used some kind of secret technique to dodge the white light pillar, she had also used up all of her energy to use this secret technique. He actually injured a Do Huang. How is this possible? Gu Yi and Nalan Su were stunned. When they came back to their senses, they looked at Chu Bei in disbelief. The green-clothed lady wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth. When she looked at the blade in Chu Bei's hand again, there was a hint of fear in her eyes. Now, do you still think you can take Qinglin away? Chu Bei looked at the green-clothed lady expressionlessly, his voice indifferent. The green-clothed lady's face was extremely ugly. After looking at Qinglin, who was still on the roof, her slender fingers went into the green veil and into her mouth. Following that, a slightly sharp whistle, carrying a strange sound wave, spread out. Rumble. Not long after the whistle sounded, there was a roar in the distant sky. Then, an incomparably huge black shadow appeared in front of everyone's eyes and quickly approached the Shao mansion. Look at the sky. What is that? So scary. It seems to be flying towards us. Damn it. What is it doing? In front of the Shao mansion, the onlookers on the street were attracted by the huge movement in the sky. When they raised their heads and saw the huge black shadow getting closer and closer, a trace of fear immediately surged into their hearts. Looking from afar, it was a huge, snake-shaped magical beast. Its flying speed was so fast that it made people feel shocked. The huge tail twisted and swayed, as if it was teleporting. In a few breaths, it had already arrived in the sky above the Shao mansion. At this time, the full appearance of the huge beast was completely taken into the eyes of the pedestrians on the street, as well as Xiao Zhan, Nalan Su, and the others. They could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. The magical beast's body was completely black, and there were lines of colorful patterns on the surface of its body. It looked quite strange. On the two sides of its body, there were 8 black wings with a tinge of purple. On its head, there was a black spiral-shaped horn that flickered with a faint purple light. The faint, colorful pattern on the head vaguely outlined the appearance of a crown. If there was a strange place, it was none other than the triangular pupils that carried a kind of cunning that was like a human's. 8-winged black serpent emperor. Nalan Su seemed to have recognized the huge snake, and his face suddenly changed as he cried out involuntarily. Guye's face also changed. His gaze was fixed on the huge snake, and his brows were tightly knitted. The 8-winged black serpent emperor was a gifted magical beast. From rank 3 onwards, it would gain an extra pair of wings for every rank it rose. When it reached 8 wings, it would be a rank 6 magical beast. Its strength could be compared to, or even surpass a human Do Huang. Boss Chu, this big guy seems to be that woman's companion. Looking at the huge black serpent, Xiao Yin subconsciously blurted out. He did not think that the 8-winged black serpent emperor was the green-clothed woman's mount. This was because at this rank, the 8-winged black serpent emperor already possessed intelligence that was not inferior to a human. With the latter's pride, it was impossible for it to submit to a human of the same rank as it. After the 8-winged black serpent emperor stopped beside the green-clothed woman, its huge snake tail suddenly swung, and the gradually darkening clouds were instantly torn into pieces by its tyrannical aura. In terms of aura, it was above the green-clothed woman. Chapter 49. Lu Man, I didn't expect you to suffer such a heavy injury in such a small city. If this were to spread back, I'm afraid they would laugh to death. The eight-winged black serpent emperor's huge triangular pupils stared at the pale green-clothed woman. Its huge mouth opened and closed as it let out a deafening laughter. Baya, you bastard. You still don't forget to laugh at me at this time. Don't tell me you didn't notice that the girl over there is different from normal humans? Hearing the eight-winged black serpent emperor's mocking words, the green-clothed woman's face sank. At the same time, she stretched out her hand and pointed at Qing Lin. Hearing that, the eight-winged black serpent emperor's triangular pupils moved. When it saw Qing Lin's eyes, its voice was like thunder, triple jade-green snake flower pupils. That's right. She is our biggest gain on this trip, the green-clothed woman said indifferently. Then who was it that heavily injured you? The eight-winged black serpent emperor's huge, triangular pupils coldly swept across Nalan Su, Xiaozhan, and the others below. The green-clothed woman didn't say much. She only pointed at Chu Bei. A mere doling. How could he injure you? Sensing Chu Bei's do-qi fluctuation, the eight-winged black serpent emperor's eyes had some confusion. This human is very strange. Especially that blade. It can't be underestimated. The green-clothed woman said in a deep voice, We have caused enough commotion. We can't drag this on any longer. Let me experience this human's methods. The eight-winged black serpent emperor coldly stared at Chu Bei. Its 8 wings flapped at the same time, and an even more terrifying power burst forth. Accompanied by the cold voice, the 8-winged black serpent emperor suddenly opened its huge mouth. Black flames burst out from its huge mouth and finally condensed into an incomparably huge black fireball at the side of its mouth. At the place where the fireball was formed, tiny black cracks faintly appeared in the void. Chi-chi-chi. Amidst the burning sound, the temperature in the air rapidly rose, causing people to become restless. Other than the blazing black fireball, densely packed small black energy snakes appeared around the 8-winged black serpent emperor's huge body. They continuously flicked their tongues. Lu Man, you take this girl back first. After I deal with this human, I still have to make a trip to the Tager Desert and find that Medusa to spar. The 8-winged black serpent emperor didn't seem to care about Chu Bei at all. After it finished speaking to the green-clothed woman, it suddenly spat out its huge mouth. Immediately, the huge black fireball shot in Chu Bei's direction. Wherever it passed, space became slightly distorted. Almost at the same time, the densely packed small black energy snakes also swooped down, covering the sky like a huge net. Scatter, Senbin Zakura. However, just as the woman in green reappeared beside Qing Lin and was about to take her away, an extremely calm voice drifted into her ears. Focusing his gaze, Chu Bei released his right hand that was holding the hilt, and the thin saber was in a free-falling position with the blade facing downwards. The strange thing was that when the saber stabbed into the ground, it disappeared. However, just as everyone was looking for the saber, the ground that was paved with bluestone bricks suddenly lit up with pink light. In the light, 12 identical sabers drilled out from the ground, symmetrically distributed on both sides. Pacha! It was accompanied by a neat and clear sound. The 12 thin sabers shattered into countless dense blades at the same time. Under the contrast of the pink light, these blades were like dancing petals, gorgeous and dazzling. Bang, bang, bang. In an instant, the dancing blades exploded. Wherever they passed, the small black energy snakes that collided with them were instantly cut into nothingness. In the continuous sound of explosions, the dancing blades intertwined in an orderly manner. After destroying the huge black fireball, they were divided into 2 groups. Half of the blades turned into a wall of light that reflected cold light, blocking the green-clothed woman's path. The other half of the blades, under the frightened gaze of the 8-winged black serpent emperor, shot out in all directions. In the mournful scream, The hard scales on the surface of the eight-winged black serpent emperor's body shattered at the same time. Dark red blood seeped out from his dark body. Shocking and terrifying scars spread all over his huge body. There were even some places where the eerie white bones could be seen. His 8 wings had also been sliced into pieces by the sharp blades, and blood flowed out from them. White Fang, seeing that her companion was fatally injured, the green-clothed woman did not have any other thoughts. She immediately flew back to the side of the 8-winged black serpent emperor and used all her strength to stop the bleeding. Luman, this time we kicked an iron plate. The 8-winged black serpent emperor endured the pain. When he looked at Chu Bei again, the indifference in his huge, triangular eyes had already disappeared. What replaced it was a wave of complete and utter fear and dread. White Fang, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have called you here. It's all my fault. Lu Man's face became increasingly pale. His eyes were filled with deep regret. Sir, all of this is my fault. I beg you to spare White Fang's life. Lu Man's gaze returned to Chu Bei's body. With a plop, he directly knelt down in the air. Chu Bei indifferently glanced at Lu Man. He did not give any response. He only waved his right hand. The petal-like blades wrapped around Qing Lin. After safely sending her to Chu Bei's side, they once again condensed into the thin blade from before and returned to Chu Bei's hand. What were those just now? They could actually heavily injure such a terrifying magical beast. They look like flower petals. But how can flower petals have such terrifying killing power? Who was in the Shao mansion? Could it be that Nalan Su heavily injured that magical beast? Impossible. This magical beast is at least rank 5. According to what I know, Nalan Su is only a doling. How could he injure it? Then who could it be? The Shao mansion is actually hiding someone above the Dowang realm. Do you still remember the Jialai mansion that was destroyed in one night? It's extremely terrifying to think about it. Outside the Shao mansion, more and more people were passing by. Among them, there was no lack of experts from other powers and families in Wutan City. When they saw the miserable appearance of the 8-winged black serpent emperor, only shock was left on their faces. Inside the mansion, there was a deathly silence. Xiao Zhan, the first elder, the second elder, and the other members of the Shao family looked at each other. When they once again looked at Chu Bei, they were even more respectful. Guyi swallowed his saliva. His entire person seemed to have been struck by lightning. His face was at a loss. It was as if he was struck by lightning. He was like a clay statue. Nalan Yinran was also flabbergasted. Her brain seemed to have lost the ability to think. She stood there like a piece of wood without moving. Her 2 eyes stared blankly at Chu Bei, who was holding the blade. As for Nalan Su, at this moment, his entire body was as tense as a rock. His heart was so heavy that it was as if it was filled with cold lead. He really did not dare to think that before this green-clothed woman came, he actually made a move against this mysterious person. Unconsciously, Nalan Su shivered. His heart still had lingering fear. This scene was far beyond his expectations. It was too shocking. Chapter 50. You are from the Sky Serpent Mansion, right? Chu Bei raised his eyes and looked calmly at the 8-winged black serpent emperor and the green-clothed lady in the air. Hearing this, the green-clothed lady trembled slightly and a hint of astonishment flashed through her eyes. Senior, we are indeed from the Sky Serpent Mansion. It was because of this that we had the intention to take the triple jade-green snake flower pupils away by force. The green-clothed lady hurriedly said, We have no ill intentions towards her. Chu Bei waved his right hand and the thin saber in his hand turned into a stream of light and disappeared. If you had ill intentions towards her, do you think you would still have the chance to speak now? Hearing Chu Bei's words, the green-clothed lady and the 8-winged black serpent emperor looked at each other. From the other party's previous methods, they knew that they had offended someone they should not have offended this time. They also knew that if the other party did not hold back earlier, they would have already been turned into ashes. Scram. Chu Bei waved his hand casually. I will train this triple jade-green snake flower pupils myself. There is no need for you to help. At this point, Chu Bei's tone suddenly turned cold. If you dare to have any ideas about Qinglin again, the entire Sky Serpent Mansion will be buried with her." The green-clothed lady and the eight-winged black serpent emperor were stunned one after another. After recovering from their shock, they hurriedly lowered their heads and said, "Thank you for sparing our lives, Senior. Baya, let's go." The green-clothed lady healed the eight-winged black serpent emperor's injuries and quickly left. Under the gazes of everyone in the mansion, the two figures disappeared into the horizon. "Do you still want to continue staying here?" Nalan Su, Gu Yi, and the others raised their eyes and looked in the direction where the green-clothed lady disappeared. However, at this moment, a calm voice sounded in their ears. Meeting Chu Bei's gaze, Nalan Su's expression suddenly froze and his body could not help but shiver. "Senior, we have disturbed you. We will leave now." Nalan Su did not think at all as he bowed to Chu Bei and subconsciously blurted out. As soon as he finished speaking, he gave Gu Yi and Nalan Yanran a look. Then, he turned around and walked quickly towards the Xiao residence's main gate. Nalan Yanran looked at Xiao Yin unwillingly, but when her gaze swept over Chu Bei, fear emerged in her eyes. Immediately, he quickened his pace and caught up to Nalan Su. "Look, Nalan Su and Nalan Yanran have also come out. From the looks of it, this Xiao family trip didn't go well." "Nonsense. Even the terrifying magical beast from before was heavily injured by the hidden expert of the Xiao family, not to mention Nalan Su, who is a Douling. If they want to avenge Nalan Yanran, I'm afraid only the sect leader of the Yunlan sect can do it himself. I really want to see the expert that the Xiao family is hiding." Outside the Xiao residence, a group of people first looked in the direction of the eight-winged black serpent emperor, but their gazes quickly fell on Nalan Su and his group who walked out of the Xiao residence, and they started to discuss spiritedly, "Boss Chu, what is the saber you used just now? Can you let me have a look?" Inside the residence, Xiao Yin looked at Chu Bei with a flattering face. Chu Bei took a step forward and patted Xiao Yan's shoulder. He said meaningfully, "Young man, work hard to earn money. When you have enough money, don't talk about looking, you can even hug him to sleep." Xiao Yin raised his head and sighed. He once again realized the importance of money. Of course, he did not ask about the price of the saber, because it was meaningless. Even if the Xiao family had all their wealth, they would still not be able to afford it. "It's dark, let's go back." Chu Bei put his hands on the shoulders of the little doctor and Qing Lin respectively and took the lead to walk away. The saber he used before was called Simbanzakura Sakura, which came from the Death Plane. It was the Zanpakuto of the 6th Division Captain of the 13 Imperial Guard Squadrons. Because it could only be used in the Shirkai, and there was a half-hour usage limit, it was classified as a Level 8 commodity. This also consumed the Level 8 commodity that was rewarded by the system because of the successful transaction of the Green Lotus Core Fire. "Boss Chu, did you see the expert that the Xiao family is hiding in the residence?" Chu Bei and the other two had just left the Xiao residence, and a group of people surrounded them. Facing these incomparably enthusiastic pedestrians, Chu Bei could only chat while pulling the two girls and quickly leave. The next day, Kama Holy City. As the capital of the Kama Empire, the Holy City was several times more lively than Wutan City. There was an endless stream of people coming and going, and it was extremely noisy. The Imperial Palace was divided into an inner palace and an outer palace. The outer palace was surrounded by a dark red high wall and some male guards. Of course, there were also some relatively ordinary and simple houses. The main task of these guards was to prevent any suspicious people from approaching the palace. After passing through the outer palace and passing through a 5-meter high golden high wall, one would reach the inner palace. The inner palace was filled with majestic and magnificent palaces, indicating its core position in the Imperial Palace. On the side of the golden high wall, teams of strictly trained guards were constantly patrolling back and forth. At this moment, in the center of the inner palace, a bright and cheerful dance song was being sung in a magnificent hall with golden walls. The Jiama Emperor and a group of imperial officials were leisurely admiring the enchanting dance of the dancers, nodding their heads in praise from time to time. But after a personal guard came forward and said a few words in the Jiama Emperor's ear, the latter waved away all the dancers. The hall suddenly quieted down. "Father, what's wrong?" A young girl around 14 or 15 years old could not help but take the lead to speak. Her face was filled with confusion. Beside the young girl sat a tall woman wearing a luxurious brocade gown. Her appearance was similar to the young girl, but there was an additional coldness and majesty. All the officials in the hall looked at the Jiama Emperor with confusion in their eyes. Not including today, the Primer clan will be holding a Tian-level auction in 2 days. The Jiama Emperor said faintly. What? Tian-level auction? Why is it so sudden? In the past, the Tian-level auction would be organized at least a month in advance. Hearing the Jiama Emperor's words, the officials immediately began to discuss. This is not the main point. The problem is that the location of the Tian-level auction is in Wutan City. The Jiama Emperor continued. Wutan City? That small border city near the Magic Beast mountain range? What is that old fellow Tingshan doing? No, I will go and ask him in a while. After knowing the location of the auction, the officials in the hall immediately frowned. Father, what else do you know? Early in the night, Mo Tienga's lips moved slightly as he asked. This auction will be the most important auction in the Primer auction house in the past 10 years. The Jiama Emperor narrowed his eyes and continued. It is said that the final treasure is related to the Dozone class. It is related to the Dozone class. The faces of the officials in the hall changed once again, revealing a stunned expression. In the entire Kama Empire, a 5-star Do Huang could enter the top 10. As for Do Huang, they were as rare as phoenix feathers, not to mention Dozong. Rumble. At this moment, an intense deafening roar was transmitted into the hall from a distance. The entire hall began to tremble. Chapter 51. This aura, the Jiama Emperor was the first to stand up from the dragon chair, after which his body flashed and rushed out of the hall. The other officials in the hall exchanged glances with each other before leaving in a single file. Do Huang, and there are 2 of them. When they arrived outside the hall, all the officials immediately looked toward the northwest direction of the hall. They sensed 2 frightening auras that soared to the sky. All of their faces revealed shock. I'll go and take a look first. The Jiama Emperor glanced at all the officials. A beautiful pair of Do-Chi wings swiftly agglomerated on his back, after which it transformed into a light figure that flew toward the location where the 2 auras had erupted. Almost at the same time, the figures of the 3 large clans of the Nalan Mansion, Primer Mansion, and Mu Mansion rose into the air. Seeing the back of the Jiama Emperor, the officials hesitated for a moment, after which they displayed their abilities and headed toward the northwest direction. Rumble. In the sky above the gardens of the capital, white and yellow light clusters repeatedly intertwined and collided, carrying a frightening explosion sound. Including the Jiama Emperor, the Do Wangs who had arrived first gathered together. All of their faces were solemn as they watched the 2 light clusters on the battlefield. One could see that there was a partially visible figure in each of the 2 light clusters. Each time these 2 figures intertwined, an incomparably ferocious energy ripple would erupt. Under this energy ripple, even a Do Wang would have no choice but to agglomerate a Do-Chi armor to block it. That is Jiao Lao. Mu Chan seemed to have recognized the identity of the figure in the yellow light cluster. Shocked words escaped his mouth, after which he subconsciously looked at the Jiama Emperor. Sensing Mu Chen's gaze, the Jiama Emperor nodded. But who is the person who is fighting with Jiao Lao? Nalan Jia stared at the figure in the white light cluster and frowned tightly. Old Ice, decades have passed but your training has not improved at all. At this moment, an old laugh was emitted from the yellow light cluster. Old Jia, it is because I have met with a troublesome problem. You, on the other hand, have not broken through to the Do Zone class after so many years. If this continues, the Jiama imperial family will not be so comfortable on the day you die. A laugh was emitted from the white light cluster. Hee, the old me still has a long life. How can I die so easily? Although the old voice from the yellow light cluster still carried a smile, it was not difficult to hear some heaviness from it. Ice old man? And this cold chi, could he be the Ice Emperor hyped on? He's still alive. Hearing the words of the old man in the yellow ball, the Jiama Emperor, Mu Chun and Nalin Jie spoke one after another. After guessing the identity of the figure in the white ball of light, the three of them immediately looked at Primer Tingshan with questioning eyes. How could Old Hai have fallen? He had only lived in seclusion for a few decades. Miter Tingshan glanced at the three of them and said, "But I only met Old Hai yesterday." As the battle intensified, more and more experts rushed to the garden. Their gazes were all focused on the two figures fighting in the air. After the older generation experts recognized the identities of Jixingxian and Hypedon, the news spread from 1 to 10 and from 10 to 100. In the end, all the spectators widened their eyes in shock. If you two old fellows continue fighting, the entire imperial capital will be alarmed. At this moment, another aged voice drifted in the air. Soon after, from the northeast, a purple figure flew over. In just a few breaths, the purple figure appeared on the battlefield. That's the president of the Empire's Alchemist Association. He actually came as well. Both inside and outside the garden, some of the experts who were watching the battle recognized the Dharma Mammoth and exclaimed. Hearing the voices, Jixingxian and Hypedon stopped fighting. The three old men formed a triangle. After looking at each other, they laughed out loud at the same time as if they were old friends who had not seen each other for a long time. "Ice old man, how did you break Medusa's snake seal?" The Dharma Mammoth's face was filled with curiosity. "Did you rely on that incomplete map?" "What? Snake seal? No wonder you disappeared all these years." A shocked expression appeared on Jixingxian's old face. He had heard of Medusa's snake seal. Once one was hit, there was almost no way to break it. "Bullshit," Hypedon blurted out. "If I really relied on that incomplete map, I would probably die of old age in the desert." "Then how did you break the snake seal?" The Dharma Mammoth frowned and asked. Jixingxian also had a curious expression. Hypedon glanced at the Jiama Emperor, Nalin Jie, and the others not far away. His gaze returned to the Dharma Mammoth. "I was lucky. I met a mysterious merchant. From him, I obtained a strange pattern and easily broke the snake seal." "Mysterious merchant?" The Dharma Mammoth and Jixingxian looked at each other. The Jiama Emperor, Nalin Jie, Mu Chun, and the others also looked at each other in dismay. Their eyes were filled with curiosity. 2 days later, Primer will hold a heaven-level auction in Wutan City. Other than the treasures prepared by our auction house, there will also be the 6 treasures of the mysterious merchant that I mentioned. Hypedon circulated his do chi. His vigorous voice floated far away. "At that time, you will naturally meet this mysterious merchant. Is this why you arranged the heaven-level auction in Wutan City?" The Jiama Emperor, Mu Chun, and Nalin Jie looked at Primer at the same time. "That's right." Primer smiled and nodded in response. On the other side, Celestial Shop. "Boss, a guest is here." The little doctor gently pushed open Chubei's door. Chubei responded. When he came to the outer room and saw the guest that the little doctor mentioned, his face instantly had a playful expression. This so-called guest was the Snake Queen Medusa and one of the 8 leaders, Yumei, whom he had dealt with not long ago. Seeing Chubei arrive, Qing Lin, who was being stared at by Medusa, quickly moved and hid behind Chubei. "Boss Chu, we meet again." Medusa's gaze shifted to Chubei. Her expression was cold. Yumei was the same. Her beautiful eyes even faintly contained hostility toward Chubei. "Those who come are guests. Qing Lin, serve tea." Chubei smiled. "No need." Medusa waved her hand. This queen came this time for the Eastern Emperor Tai set. After obtaining the Eastern Emperor Tai set's skill, Fallen God contract, she only cultivated it for a few hours and felt the extraordinary exquisiteness of it. It could even be said that this skill's profoundness was above the snake seal curse. It was also because of this that she couldn't wait to obtain the complete Eastern Emperor Tai set. "You should know the rules. Then I won't say anything more. Whether you can obtain it today will depend on your luck." After saying this with a smile, Chubei waved his sleeve. With a buzzing sound, a golden disc appeared in front of Medusa. It emitted a glaring light. At the top of the disc, the words, "Level 8 Wheel of Fortune," were engraved. Chapter 52. 2,000,000 going once. Chubei pointed at the lucky wheel and looked calmly at Medusa. Medusa was expressionless, but Yume beside her could not help but twitch her mouth. Is this robbery? Yume could not help but shout. Miss Yume, don't you understand that you get what you pay for? Chubei ignored Yume's murderous gaze and smiled. Yume wanted to say something, but Medusa waved her hand and interrupted. Boss Chu, compared to money, I have more demon cores. I think I can use them. One rank 6 demon core for one spin. Chubei replied. Hearing this, Medusa waved her hand and 10 demon cores of different colors appeared. Every year, there were many powerful demon beasts that invaded the Naga tribe. For this reason, Medusa had accumulated many high-level demon cores. The system has gained 200,000 willpower. Supporting the host has gained 100,000 willpower. When the wheel swallowed the demon cores, the system's voice sounded. The needle turned. Ding. Amidst the crisp sounds, 10 exquisite square boxes were placed in front of Medusa one after another. Seeing this magical operation, Yume's eyes were filled with shock. Bang! The 10 boxes exploded at the same time. You are indeed a profiteer. Yume was first stunned when she saw the words "Thank you for your patronage" lined up in an orderly manner in front of Medusa. She glared fiercely at Chubei when she reacted to the situation. As for Medusa, she did not have much reaction. She waved her hand and another 10 rank 6 demon cores appeared. The system has gained 200,000 willpower. Supporting the host has gained 100,000 willpower. The needle turned. Ding. 10 exquisite boxes appeared. Bang. The exact same process, even the results were the same. It was still 10. Thank you for your patronage. Your Majesty, this guy is lying to you. Don't believe him anymore. 20 Class 6 monster cores were soaked in water in a row. Yume was so angry that her body trembled. If it wasn't for the fact that she couldn't beat Chubei, she would have already attacked him. Medusa frowned. However, she didn't say anything. She took a deep breath and took out 10 more magic cores. It's a small business, and there's a daily sales limit. If you still can't transfer to the next group, you can only come back tomorrow. Chubei's words made Medusa's frown deepen. The system has gained 200,000 willpower points. The host has gained 100,000 willpower points. Bang! 10 square boxes exploded. Your Majesty, we got something this time. Yume's eyes were fixed on the crimson red armor in the middle of the 9. Thank you for your patronage. Medusa's cold expression softened as she felt the strange energy fluctuations coming from the armor. Boss Chu, introduce it to me. Medusa pointed at the crimson red armor. Your luck is pretty good. Although you didn't get anything in the first 2 groups, this violent armor has made you earn back the magic cores you lost. Chubei touched the crimson red armor and said, among the Class 8 square boxes, this item is considered one of the more precious ones. Among the Class 8 Lucky Roulette, most of them were Class 8 items, but there were also Class 7 and Class 6 items. This crimson red armor was a Class 8 item. Violent armor? Just hearing the name of the armor, Medusa's beautiful eyes were filled with interest. Other than being able to defend against the attack of a 4-star Dozong, it can also increase your attack power by 10% and your flying speed by 10%. Chubei said, it's that powerful? After hearing Chubei's words, Yume walked around the violent armor with a suspicious expression. You'll know once you wear it. Medusa stretched out her hand. When her fingertips touched the violent armor, the armor turned into a crimson light and attached itself to Medusa's body, forming a light muslin dress. In the next moment, Medusa's eyes shone brightly. Your Majesty, how is it? Yume immediately asked when she noticed the change in Medusa's expression. Medusa nodded. It's as he said. It's really that powerful. Yume's mouth was wide open and her face was filled with disbelief. She looked at Chubei with a different gaze. The next day, Medusa brought Yume over once again. After spending 80 million gold coins to reach the upper limit of Chubei's sales, although they still didn't get the Donghuang set, they did get an offensive weapon from the League of Legends world. It was a Class 7 item, the Frost Hammer. Melee attacks can reduce the opponent's movement speed by 40%. Ranged attacks can reduce the opponent's movement speed by 20%. Medusa held the frost hammer and revealed a smile. Boss Chu, you really have a lot of good stuff here. Medusa looked at Chu Bei and put away the frost hammer. The meaning behind her words was hard to understand. What? You want to rob me? Chu Bei smiled. I'm not that untactful. Medusa quickly shook her head. After these two interactions, she realized that she couldn't see through the person in front of her. He was becoming more and more mysterious. Then what do you mean? Chu Bei took a sip of tea. Boss Chu, can't you take out all the treasures and let me choose the most suitable one? Just name your price. Medusa said what was on her mind. Ancestral business. The rules can't be changed. Chu Bei responded and added, but the day after tomorrow at the primer auction house, I will be auctioning 6 items. You can see if there's anything you need. Auction? Medusa stared blankly for a moment, then replied, I'll definitely be there. Primer auction house. The moment all the staff received Yafei's instructions, they started to renovate the auction house like a raging fire. Not only did they connect all the big and small auction houses, but they also removed the outer wall, turning it into a huge open-air auction house. Looking at the seating arrangement, with the auction stage as the center, there were 3 layers inside and 3 layers outside, enough to accommodate tens of thousands of people. The circle closest to the auction stage was indirectly distributed with exquisite and luxurious compartments. As the news spread, Wutan City became more and more lively. It was as if it was on par with Holy City. At this moment, Wutan City's largest tavern was full of people. Primer Auction House's large-scale renovation. Is there any big movement? Damn, did you just climb out of a coffin? You're too uninformed. Hurry up and tell us. Don't keep us in suspense. Primer Auction House will be holding a heaven-level auction the day after tomorrow. What? A heaven-level auction? Impossible. A heaven-level auction is Primer's highest standard auction. Why would it be held in our Wutan City? This is a fact that is already set in stone. It's said that Boss Chu is going to auction 6 mysterious treasures. Last time, the antidote water from the Shao family, wasn't it provided by him? No wonder there are so many unfamiliar rich faces on the streets today. It seems like they must be high officials from other cities. I heard that this time, there are many big shots coming from the capital. Not only the 3 big families, even the royal family is coming. In the tavern, all the topics were about the auction that would be held the day after tomorrow. Chapter 53. Tavern, Northwest Corner. A family of 8 gathered around a round table. The most conspicuous one was a stooped, white-haired old man. Great-grandfather, you're already 108 years old. There must be something wrong with your memory. You must have mistaken him for someone else. A young man around 21 or 22 years old put down his chopsticks. Boss Chu is the benefactor of the entire Wutan City. Don't say such things again. It won't be good if outsiders hear it. I won't remember wrongly. It's him. He's still the same as when I was young. He hasn't changed at all. If you don't believe me, I'll go confront him. The stooped, white-haired old man's body trembled. Perhaps because of his age, his voice trembled as he spoke. Grandfather, 100 years have passed. Boss Chu's appearance hasn't changed at all. He must be a cultivation expert. Why would such a person steal your steamed buns? A middle-aged man asked. Why don't you believe me? The stooped, white-haired old man shook his head. His skinny face was full of grievance. If Chu Bei was here, he would be embarrassed to hear the old man's words. 100 years ago, when he transmigrated to Wutan City, he had no money and no job. Coincidentally, his stomach failed him. Turning a corner, he saw an 8 or 9-year-old child holding 2 steamed buns. After hesitating for 3 seconds, he had no choice but to snatch the steamed buns. At the same time, All Heaven's shop, 2nd floor. Chu Bei inexplicably sneezed. In 2 days, he had obtained a total of 700,000 willpower points from Medusa. In the Battle Spirit realm, Dien Dui required 50,000 willpower points for a 1-star cultivation level. In the Battle King realm, Dien Dui required 200,000 willpower points for a 1-star cultivation level. After spending 150,000 willpower to break through to Battle Spirit 9 stars, He spent another 400,000 willpower to raise his cultivation to Battle King 2 stars. When Chu Bei became a Battle King from Battle Spirit, the battle crystal in his body disappeared. The battle chi in his body no longer needed to go through the battle crystal to be mobilized. His entire body could gush out along his meridians at any time. Other than that, the biggest difference was that his battle chi turned into wings and soared into the sky. As for his remaining willpower, 205,000 points. Another day passed. Morning. Opening of the Celestial Mall auction. The system is selecting goods for the host. The system's voice sounded in Chu Bei's mind. Chu Bei woke up with a start and found that there were 6 exquisite wooden boxes on the system interface. 3 black boxes, 2 red boxes, and 1 purple box. Boss, Miss Yafei is here. At this moment, Qing Lin knocked on the door and walked in. Chu Bei nodded. As soon as he left the room, he saw Yafei, who was wearing a purple-red robe. Boss Chu, the auction house is ready for you. How are things going on your end? Yafei strode towards Chu Bei. As her waist swayed, her close-fitting robe outlined a touch of charm. Let's go. Chu Bei sized up Yafei with a smile on his face. The most lively place in Wutan City today was the Primer Auction House. The huge auction house was packed with people. There were tens of thousands of seats, and there were no empty seats. Even in the outermost 6th circle, the people who were seated there were all very wealthy. If we didn't know Boss Chu, I'm afraid we wouldn't even have a seat. Xiao Zhan, who was in the northwest of the 3rd circle, sighed. Although the Xiao family was one of the 3 major families in Wutan City, if placed in the entire Kama Empire, they were far from being ranked. Looking at the people sitting around, especially the 2 circles closest to the auction stage, they were all famous people in the Kama Empire. Do you know who's in room number 4? A chubby man sitting in the 2nd row looked at the man in green beside him and asked, "Don't keep us in suspense." The man in green was curious. People from the Mu family, and Mu Chun is personally leading them. The fatty raised his eyebrows. TSK, TSK. Then do you know who's in the 3rd box? A thin man interrupted. Tell me. The fatty was also curious. Marshal Lionheart, Nailinjia. The person who interrupted earlier said proudly. What's there to be shocked about? It's said that even the old man in the palace came with his majesty. He's in the 1st box. The lineup for this auction is really not small. I wonder what the final 6 mysterious treasures will be like. We'll find out soon. In the auction house, there was a clamor of discussion. Look, Yafei is on stage. As expected of a famous woman in the imperial capital, she's really a seductress. In an instant, countless gazes were focused on a woman in a purple-red dress with a voluptuous and exquisite figure. Everyone, I've kept you waiting. Yafei leisurely stepped onto the auction stage and bowed to the crowd. Her sweet voice was so charming that it made people's bones go numb. Miss Yafei, since you know we can't wait, then let's get to the point. A middle-aged man below the stage shouted. Okay. Yafei was very efficient. She didn't say anything else and directly took out a silver plate from her storage ring. On the plate was a simple and unadorned sheepskin scroll. The first item of this auction is a high-grade mystic class technique, Blazing Sun technique. Yafei's lips opened and closed. After reading the auction item, she raised her voice and said, the starting price is 200,000 gold coins. It's just a high-grade mystic class technique. How boring. That's right. If you want it, just buy it. If it's an earth-grade technique, maybe we'll fight for it. Perhaps because most of the people in the auction house were famous people in the Kama Empire, the auction of the high-grade mystic class technique didn't cause too much of a commotion. There were even many sighs. In the end, the Blazing Sun technique was won by Xiao Zhan for 700,000 gold coins. However, as the auction continued, the atmosphere in the auction house rose at a rapid pace. Especially in the later stages, there was no lack of bidders who stood up from their chairs and fought until their faces were red. She really has some skills. In box number 8, Chu Bei smiled as he looked at Yafei on the auction stage. His eyes were filled with praise. It had to be said that Yafei had achieved the pinnacle of using her appearance to stir up the atmosphere. Every frown and smile would cause the price below the stage to soar. Once someone raised the price, she would cast a charming smile at them. Those who were still paying to raise the price saw this smile and immediately became spirited. Finally, after 4 hours of the auction, the last item prepared by the primer auction house was sold at a price of 15 million gold coins. Although the bidders below the stage were enthusiastic in these 4 hours of auction, the person in the box closest to the auction stage didn't make a sound. Everyone, although the auction items prepared by the primer auction house have been sold, this auction isn't over yet. When the last auction item was sold, Yafei adjusted her skirt and her charming voice floated from the auction stage. Chapter 54. It's finally starting. Hearing Yafei's words, the audience was stunned at first, then they became excited. Especially the officials and nobles in the inner circle, they rubbed their hands together, their faces full of anticipation. Although the primer auction house's auction had ended, they knew that this was the real start of the auction. It was also the battlefield of the big shots in the boxes. Everyone, I will leave the rest of the time to Boss Chu. Yafei looked at box number 8, her lips slightly parted, her words filled with a smile. Hearing this, the audience gradually quieted down, and everyone couldn't help but look in the same direction. Under everyone's gaze, Chu Bei unhurriedly stepped onto the auction stage, then waved his hand to greet everyone. Box number 3. It's him? He looks like he's only in his 20s. Nayland Jie's gaze was fixed on Chu Bei's face, his brows furrowed. Father, you can't be fooled by his appearance. Nayland Su respectfully looked at Nayland Jie. What Yanran and I saw before is definitely not false. Moreover, I also found out from the people in the city that he has already lived in Wutan City for 100 years. Grandfather, think about it. For 100 years his appearance hasn't changed. Only a Do Zone can do that. Nayland Yanran opened her mouth to speak. Don't worry, I won't test him. Nayland Jie seemed to have seen through Nayland Su and Nayland Yanran's worries, stroked his beard and said, Boss Chu, let's start. I can't wait any longer. Yes, I came all the way here just to see the 6 mysterious treasures that Primer wantonly talked about. When the audience saw Chu Bei, they were first stunned, but after regaining their senses, they all stood up and shouted. Since that's the case, then I won't beat around the bush. Chu Bei smiled. Then, with a wave of his sleeve, a black square box appeared. Bang! With a loud sound, the square box exploded. It was an ancient book covered with the marks of time. On the cover of the book were the words, Buddha's Palm. Almost at the same time, information about the Buddha's palm appeared in Chu Bei's mind. When he saw the big words on the cover of the book, Chu Bei's mouth twitched. In fact, even without the system's information, he knew a little about this palm technique. Everyone, have you ever seen a palm technique descending from the sky? Chu Bei's smiling voice floated in the auction house. This is the first item I'm auctioning. It's level 6, and its name is the Buddha's Palm. Buddha's Palm? Is it related to palm techniques? What does level 6 mean? Profound or earth stage? Why haven't I heard of it before? Instantly, everyone's gaze focused on the ancient book in front of Chu Bei. Everyone's eyes were filled with doubt. As for Xiao Yin, who was seated in the 3rd row, his expression changed when he heard Chu Bei mention the so-called palm technique that descended from the sky. When he heard that the Buddha's palm confirmed his thoughts, he couldn't help but blurt out the word, holy shit. Big brother Xiao Yin, what's wrong with you? Could it be that you know this technique? Xiao Sun Er looked at Xiao Yin with curiosity on her flawless face. Xiao Zhan and the 3 elders of the Xiao clan also threw their gazes at Xiao Yin. I think I've seen it in some unofficial history book, but I can't remember the specifics. Xiao Yin quickly made up a story. Boss Chu, is the level 6 you're talking about profound or earth stage? What's the starting price? Below the stage, someone asked. The items I'm auctioning cannot be judged by your common standards. Chu Bei's gaze swept across the crowd. What I can guarantee is that the Buddha's palm is very beneficial to King Realm fighters. As for the starting price, it's 20 million gold coins. Each increment must not be less than 500,000 gold coins. What? 20 million? When they heard the starting price from Chu Bei's mouth, everyone immediately sucked in a breath of cold air, and several astonished voices sounded in the field. The last item from the primer auction house was only sold for 15 million gold coins. Looking at the unheard of the Buddha's palm, the starting price was 20 million gold coins, not to mention the final price. Once the sky-high price was announced, the auction house became much quieter. Although most of the people present were officials and nobles from the capital, 20 million was not a small amount to them. It was even the income of their family for 2, 3, or even more years. Boss Chu, we've never heard of this technique before. We can't judge if it's worth this price. Yeah, even if we took out 20 million gold coins, we would still have to pay a lot. At this time, people from the first and second rows spoke up. Their faces were filled with doubt. Rumble. Just as Chu Bei was about to say something, a roar came from the southeast of the auction house. Get out of the way. Amidst the shouting, a group of people forcibly broke through the guards of the primer auction house and appeared at the southeast corner of the auction stage. The leader of the group was a middle-aged man in a white robe. There was a cloud and a long sword imprinted on his chest. Beside the middle-aged man was a middle-aged man in a gray robe. Cloud silver sword. They are from the Yunlan sect. Are they also here to participate in the auction? Looking at this formation, it's a bit strange. The leader seems to be the great elder of the Yunlan sect, Yunlan. As for the one beside him, it's the head of the Mo family in the northeast, Mo Lan. As expected, the Mo family and the Yunlan sect are very close. Speaking of the Mo family, I remember that a few days ago, the great elder of the Mo family, Mo Cheng, and his group were killed in Wutan City. There's such a thing? Who did it? Could it be that Mo Lan and the people from the Yunlan sect are not here for the auction, but to avenge Mo Cheng? Everyone's gazes shifted to Yun Long and his group, and guesses were heard everywhere. Even in those private rooms, when Yun Long arrived, there were also whispers. After all, the Yunlan sect was a huge force that was not under the control of the royal family. Any movement of the Yunlan sect would attract the attention of various forces. You killed Mo Cheng? The battle chi wings behind Yun Long's back flapped, and he floated in the air. He looked coldly at Chu Bei. You're here to avenge him? Chu Bei looked at Yun Long, crossed his arms in front of his chest, and had a playful look on his face. What? It's Boss Chu who killed Mo Cheng. Chu Bei's words were tantamount to a direct admission. Everyone present was shocked. The Mo family is under the protection of the Yunlan sect. You killed him, which is equivalent to not putting the Yunlan sect in your eyes. Yun Long's eyes were filled with the chilliness of the cold in the forest. Since that's the case, a life for a life. Yun Long's cold voice spread through the air, and his aura became majestic. The surging battle chi tore through the air, making a sizzling sound. Chapter 55. The Great Elder of the Yunlan Sect. Mr. Chu, you're in big trouble. God bless Boss Chu. The citizens of Wutan City who were far away outside the auction house and had come to join in the fun felt the terrifying aura released by Yun Long, who was high up in the sky, and their faces were filled with worry. On the other hand, Chu Bei glanced at Yun Long, who was getting more and more powerful. His expression didn't change at all. I didn't expect to see some familiar faces in this small Wutan city. Yun Long glanced at the 2 rows of seats closest to the round table and said in a low voice, since that's the case, I'll take this opportunity to warn you. Even if you're just a subordinate force of the Yunlan sect, you can't be bullied by others. As Yun Long's incomparably tyrannical voice fell, the energy around his body instantly surged up like boiling water. Circles of azure-colored substantial energy ripples swiftly spread out from his body. With a clear buzzing sound, a long and thin silver sword appeared in his right hand. The tip of the sword trembled slightly, and the sword body shone brightly. Under the glaring light, the violent energy gathered crazily. This power, he's using such a killer move right from the start. Looks like he's also very cautious. Murmurs could be heard from the third box. In the air, Yun Long's speed of swinging his sword increased. Every time he accumulated energy, The energy ripples from the sword body became more and more terrifying. Just when everyone's eyes were focused on Yunlong, Chu Bei on the auction stage also released a wave of energy. At the same time, a pair of battle energy wings appeared on his back, and he flew to the sky above Yunlong. 2 stars fighting king? This old man Hai said that the mysterious merchant who could break the seal on the Medusa snake is only a 2 stars fighting king? He must have something special. Otherwise, old man Hai wouldn't value him so much. If he's really a 2 stars fighting king, I'm afraid he won't be able to withstand Yunlong's killer move. Just as Chu Bei unleashed his aura, various noises rang out from the private rooms and corners of the venue. It seems that I have overestimated you. Yunlong raised his head and looked at Chu Bei. After determining the latter's cultivation base, he sneered. Extreme wind, glorious sunset. Accompanied by a cold shout, Yunlong fiercely flicked the slender silver sword in his hand to the ground. Suddenly, the sword's already dazzling white light exploded once again, covering the blazing sunlight in the sky. It was also at this moment that the terrifying energy fluctuations at the tip of the sword that had been accumulating for a long time finally erupted. An incomparably terrifying and sharp sword chi soared into the sky, heading straight for Chu Bei. Everywhere this sword chi passed, space seemed as if it was being torn apart, and hissing sounds caused one's heart to tremble. It really is this move. One of the Yunlong sect's strongest fighting techniques. Exclamations could be heard from all around the auction stage. However, just as the sharp sword chi was about to pierce through the figure above, suddenly, a ray of bright golden light bloomed from the figure's body, rapidly expanding and evolving. It was a gigantic right palm that was hundreds of feet long, or even close to 1,000 feet long, as if it was made of metal. Buddha's palm. Almost at the same time, for light syllables rang in everyone's ears. Rumble. The huge golden palm slammed down, and the void roared. Its speed was extremely fast. Whoosh. The sharp sword chi crashed into the huge golden palm. However, in front of the huge figure that was almost 100 feet tall, the sharp sword chi was no different from a grain of sand. At the moment of collision, it was annihilated by the former. What a terrifying power. Could this be the fighting technique that was just auctioned off? If that's the case, it's worth far more than 20 million. Good heavens! It really fell from the sky. In front of the auction stage, exclamations could be heard from all the boxes. The eyes of the high officials and nobles who were unable to enter the private rooms were filled with fervor, as if they were determined to win. How is this possible? Seeing that his attack was disintegrated in an instant, Yunlong's pupil shrank, and his face was filled with disbelief. When he came back to his senses, Yunlong looked at the huge golden palm that was getting closer and closer. He did not have time to think and waved the silver sword in his hand again. Wind-splitting whirlwind dance. Yunlong shouted again, and several dark green wind blades that were 70 to 80 feet long appeared from the tip of the sword. They intertwined into a whirlwind and met the huge golden palm. Boom. However, it only brought about a loud sound. No. Looking at the shattered whirlwind and the huge figure that was close at hand, Yunlong's face was filled with fear. Bang. With a dull sound, under the gaze of countless people below, Yunlong's body exploded, and blood and flesh splattered everywhere. After forcefully bombarding Yunlong to death, the enormous golden palm transformed into strands of golden light and disappeared. Dead. The great elder of the Yunlong sect is dead. He died under the Buddha's palm. The people who were watching the battle recovered from their absent-mindedness and looked at each other. In box number 1, Great-grandfather, can you tell what level of dose skill the Buddha's palm is? Early in the night, through the window, he pointed to the sky and tilted his head to look at Jixingxian, who was beside him. It's hard to say. Jixingxian shook his head. I'm afraid that I can only make a judgment after I practice it. Imperial grandfather, from what you said, are you prepared to take down the Buddha's palm? The Jiama emperor opened his mouth and asked. What do you think? Jixingxian stroked his beard, glanced at the Jiama emperor, and said meaningfully, "In box number 3, the Great Elder is still dead." Nailin Yinran bit her lips and stared at Chu Bei, who was still in the sky. The fear in her eyes was even more intense. Is that Do skill really that powerful? It can actually easily kill the 6-star Do King Yunlong. Nailin Su frowned. From the aura on his body, he only used the strength of 2 stars Do King. This Buddha's palm cannot be underestimated. Nailin Jie narrowed his eyes. "Grandfather, are we going to bid?" Nailin Yinran opened her mouth. Nailin Jie sighed. Everyone has seen the power of the Buddha's palm with their own eyes. It won't be easy to get it. Other than that, there was also a commotion in the other big boxes. At this moment, Chu Bei had also returned to the auction stage. His gaze landed on Mo Lan. Don't kill me." Mo Lan fell to the ground and stared at Chu Bei with extreme fear. He kept retreating. Chu Bei did not care about Mo Lan's pleas for mercy. He directly struck out with his palm. The sharp Do Chi wind blade broke through Mo Lan's Do Chi armor and cut open his neck. After dealing with Mo Lan, Chu Bei walked back to the edge of the auction stage. He flipped his right hand, and the ancient book with the Buddha's palm, imprinted with the marks of time, appeared in his palm once again. Everyone, you have also seen the palm from before. It is a simulation of the strength of 2 stars Do King. Chu Bei smiled as he looked at the crowd below the stage. He cleared his throat. After watching the actual battle, are any of you tempted by the Buddha's palm? It is level 6 and the starting price is 20 million gold coins. Each increment must not be less than 500,000 gold coins. Chapter 56. 21 million. As soon as Chu Bei's voice fell, someone in the first row below the stage could not wait to raise his paddle and bid. The bidder was sitting in the first row of the inner circle. He was a famous rich man in the empire. 21. 5 million. Soon, a second person made a bid. He was also prominent. 22 million. The third person raised his paddle. In just a few seconds, there were nearly 10 people below the stage who participated in the bidding. The bidding price soon broke through 25 million. 28 million. When the last bidder made a bid of 26 million, a powerful voice floated in the air. Who is it? He actually raised the price by 2 million. Room 4, the Mu family of the 3 big families. As expected, they are also tempted. With them bidding, we won't be able to play anymore. Hearing the voice from box number 3, the people who had bid earlier fell silent one after another. 30 million. At this moment, a voice came from room 3. The Nailin family has made a move. Everyone looked at room 3. 32 million. However, less than 2 seconds after Nailin Jie's bid, a voice came from room 2. As far as I know, the people sitting in room 2 are from the Primer family. This is a bit dramatic. They are also participating in the bidding. Haha, Dragon and Tiger are fighting. I wonder who will get the Buddha's palm in the end. Below the stage, the gazes of the nobles and officials shifted back and forth between the several boxes. Tingshan, what do you mean by this? Mu Chen's voice came from room 4. Brother Mu, I'm not deliberately making things difficult for you. Although I, Primer, am the organizer of this auction, Boss Chu's items are not directly related to us. If we want to get this treasure, we can only bid. Primer Tingshan responded, 34 million. Hearing Primer Tingshan's words, Mu Chen snorted and raised the price again, 36 million. In room 2, Nailin Su raised the price again, 38 million. Primer Tingshan raised the price, 40 million. Under the competition of the 3 great clans of the empire, the price of the Buddha's palm quickly broke through the 40 million mark. Gentlemen, Boss Chu wants to auction 6 items today, and this Buddha's palm is only the first of the 3 level 6 items. Why don't you give me some face and let me have it? Just as the competition between the 3 clans was getting intense, a dignified voice came from room number 1. At the same time, the bid of 45 million echoed in everyone's ears. The royal family has made their move. Since the Jiama Emperor has spoken, even the 3 big clans would have to give him some face. Hearing this, everyone below the stage was shocked. The reality was indeed so. After the Jiama Emperor directly increased the bid by 5 million and announced a bid of 45 million, The three large clans did not increase the bid any further. One of the reasons why they chose to give up was, of course, to give face to the royal family. As for the second reason, the price of 45 million was probably the bottom line of their budget. Everyone, is there anyone else who wants to raise the price? This was a palm technique that descended from the heavens. In the vast Dochi continent, I am the only one. Hearing that there was no movement below the stage and in the big rooms, Chu Bei cleared his throat. However, after 10 seconds, there was still no sound of anyone raising the price. Since that is the case, the first level 6 item, Buddha's Palm, will go to room number 1. Chu Bei smiled. He was already very satisfied with the final bid of 45 million. After the Buddha's Palm was sold, under countless gazes, Chu Bei waved his sleeve and another black square box appeared. Bang! With a familiar muffled sound, the square box exploded. It was a green scroll that seemed to be made of silk. There were various patterns and patterns engraved on the scroll. At the top of the pattern, there were 4 big words, Cold Ice Soft Palm. Looking at the familiar name, before Chu Bei could make a detour, the information about the Cold Ice Soft Palm flowed into his mind. This palm technique originated from the Ming cult's green-winged bat king Wei Yixiaoan, the Heaven Sword and Dragon Saber. It was also strengthened by the system. Boss Chu, what is the second item that you are auctioning? Looking at the green scroll, there were already people below the stage who couldn't hold back anymore. Chu Bei came back to his senses and swept his gaze across the private rooms. This is also a palm technique. It's called the Cold Ice Silk Palm. It's best for those who practice ice attribute techniques to cultivate. However, anyone who is hit by it will feel cold all over. Their blood will freeze, their meridians and bones will become stiff, and it will be difficult for them to control themselves. It will be life-threatening. While Chu Bei was describing the Cold Ice Soft Palm, he used the battle energy fluctuation of the 2 stars Fighting King to perform the palm. He flipped his right hand. Although his movement seemed slow, every time he moved his hand, the temperature around his body would drop by a level until there was a bone-chilling green energy ripple in front of his palm. Peske, Peske. Chu Bei struck with his palm. Wherever the energy ripple passed, a thick layer of ice crystals instantly appeared. The huge auction stage completely turned into a piece of ice, emitting coldness in all directions. The bidding rules for this palm technique are the same as the Buddha's palm. The starting price is 20 million, and each increment must not be lower than 500,000, Chu Bei said lightly. 30 million. As soon as Chu Bei's calm voice fell, Mu Chen's voice came from the 4th room. He directly increased the price by 10 million. Hearing this bid, there was a sigh from the audience. Naturally, no one followed the bid. 32 million. Nayland Su in the 3rd room said. 34 million. A voice came from the 1st room as well, 36 million. In the 4th room, Mu Chen hesitated for a moment and continued to bid, 38 million. In the 3rd room, Nayland Su also continued to bid after receiving Nayland Jie's instructions. Your Majesty, Brother Nayland, Brother Mu, you should all know that the people of my primer family practice ice attribute techniques. This palm technique is perfect for us. At this moment, Primer Tingshan's voice came from the 2nd room. I wonder if you can give us a chance. After saying that, Miter Tingshan quoted a price of 40 million. Brother Tingshan, my Mu family, including myself, also practice ice attribute techniques. I'm afraid we can't give you face. A vigorous voice came from the 4th room. Oh? I didn't expect that after only a few decades, your Mu family won't even give me, primer, face? However, before Mu Chun could raise the price, a low and cold snort came from the 2nd room. At the same time, a figure flew out from the room and floated in midair. A bone-piercing chill spread out from his body. Ice Emperor hyped on. The news is true. He's really still alive. I heard that as soon as he returned, he looked for the old man in the palace to spar. The people in the room were all people of high status in the empire. Naturally, there were people who recognized Hypedon. Beiji has something to say. Everyone who is reading this can be considered to have stayed because of the content of this book. Or perhaps, your resistance to poison is stronger. Haha, for the new book, please vote for it. Move your fingers and loosen your muscles. Thank you. Chapter 57. Young Man Moo. If you don't give face to primer, what about me? Hyped on. Above the second box, Bai Buodong stared coldly at the fourth box. Since Elder Hai has spoken in this way, how could I, Mu Chun, dare to continue bidding? Mu Chun replied, and his voice revealed displeasure. Hypedon looked at Chu Bei. Don't do it again. Chu Bei looked at Hypedon calmly. Hippodon's heart sank when he met Chu Bei's gaze. He seemed to realize that he had done something wrong. Just as he was about to say something, Chu Bei spoke again. If no one raises the price, this frost silk palm will go to box 2. The final price will be $40 million. After Chu Bei put away the frost silk palm, he waved his sleeve again and the third black square box appeared. Bang! Under countless gazes, the square box exploded. Just like the Buddha's palm, it was a book filled with time. Flipping to the first page, the contents were similar to the general formula. Returning sister to Wu Wang to Tong Ren to Diyu, Jia to Bing, Bing to Gung to Gue, Zi to Cho, Chen to Si, Wu to Wei, wind and thunder to one change, mountain and lake to one change, water and fire to one change, heaven and earth to stimulate, Zhan and Dui to stimulate, Li and Sun to stimulate, 3 increase to 5, 5 increase to 9. Starting from the second page, it was divided into sword breaking style, saber breaking style, spear breaking style, whip breaking style, and other units. Each unit had a detailed picture. The solitary 9 swords was created by the sword demon, Dugu Chiobai. Ladies and gentlemen, the third level 6 item is a set of sword techniques called the solitary 9 swords. Chu Bei explained as he waved the sword. This sword technique looks fake, but every move is an attack. There is no retreat. No move is better than a move. Below the auction stage, a group of dignitaries stared at the sword in Chu Bei's hand. They were dazzled. Although they were quite a distance away from the auction stage, they could faintly feel the pressure from the sword. Every swing of the sword was accompanied by the sound of wind and thunder. You won't bid again this time, right? Just as Chu Bei announced the starting price of 20 million, Nalan Jie's voice came from box 3. Brother Nalan, have you forgotten about my Mu clan? Mu Chen's voice sounded. Of course I didn't forget Brother Mu. Nalan Jie laughed loudly and continued. The Tathagata Divine Palm was auctioned for 45 million and was obtained by His Majesty. The Cold Ice Silk Palm was auctioned for 40 million and was obtained by Old Hai. Why don't I offer 50 million for this Duga 9 swords first, and Brother Mu can add another 25 million later? How about we share this sword art? Mu Chun fell silent for a short while before he said, I agree. Do the other booths have any objections? On the auction stage, Chu Bei's gaze swept across the booths. Although Nalan Jie's bidding method was different from the normal bidding method, the price he offered made Chu Bei quite satisfied. Naturally, he wouldn't say anything. Since no one is bidding, the Dugu 9 swords belongs to box 3. Chu Bei announced the result. The auction for the level 6 item has ended. Next is the level 7 item. As soon as Chu Bei's voice fell, the people below the stage trembled. The anticipation on their faces grew. They had already seen the actual power of the Tathagata Divine Palm. A 2 stars King of Fighters could easily kill a 6 stars King of Fighters. Judging from this, the level 7 item was obviously more precious. Unlike the level 6 item's black box, the level 7 item was stored in a red box. Bang! With a loud bang, the red box exploded. In an instant, a refreshing pill fragrance lingered at the tip of everyone's nose. What a rich pill fragrance! I've never heard of it. What grade is that? Everyone's eyes suddenly focused. It was a thumb-sized crystal-clear pill. Beside it floated a piece of paper with densely packed words written on it. This is Huangdan. No matter if you are a 1-star Do Huang or an 8-star Do Huang, as long as you consume it, your cultivation will immediately increase by 1 star without any side effects. Chu Bei pinched the Huangdan. After explaining its effects, he pointed to the paper filled with words. As for this, it is the pill formula that is included. It details the method to refine this pill, including the ingredients, cultivation requirements, heat control, etc. Huangdan? There's such a pill? Why have I never heard of it? What's even more ridiculous is that it can instantly increase one's cultivation without needing to be digested. Come to think of it, aren't all of Boss Chu's items strange? If this Huangdan is really as Boss Chu said, then the pill formula that is included is probably the most precious. With this pill formula and an alchemist who can refine this pill, Do Huangs will probably rush like a flock of ducks. Countless Do Huangs favor. This kind of power is scary just thinking about it. In an instant, a clamor of discussion rose from all directions. Boss Chu, what's the starting price? The Ice Emperor Hypedon looked excited. His eyes stared at the Huangdan and the pill formula, and he couldn't wait to ask. 50 million. Each increment must be no less than 5 million. Chu Bei's voice was calm. Hiss. Hearing this price, there was a sound of people sucking in a breath of cold air. Just the starting price was already far beyond what they could afford. 55 million. Hypedon didn't hesitate and directly bid. 60 million. But just as Hippodon's voice fell, an old man in a linen robe flew out of the number 1 box. He smiled at Hypedon and followed the price. Is he the guardian of the royal family in the depths of the palace? I'm lucky enough to see him with my own eyes. I wonder what level the old man's cultivation has reached. The old man in the linen robe was naturally Jixingxian. As soon as he appeared, he attracted everyone's attention. Everyone's face was filled with respect. Grandfather, should we make a move? Although you won't be able to use it to fight Huangdan, if we have the pill formula, we can definitely rope in a 6th or even 7th tier alchemist. In the number 3 box, Nalan Yinran looked at Nalan Jia and said, why wouldn't I know? Nalan Yinran looked at Nalan Yinran, shook his head and sighed, but Jixingxian and Hypedon are both Do Huangs. With them here, how can we get it? Unless your master is here. Who would have thought that Wu-Tan City was hiding such a mysterious person who also has so many treasures? Nalan Yinran bit her lips. 65 million. After Jixingxian called out the price, Hypedon still did not hesitate to bid. 70 million. Jixingxian stroked his beard. 75 million. 80 million. 85 million. Hypedon and Jixingxian bid one after another. Both of them looked determined to win. Under the two's bidding, the price quickly reached 90 million. Old man Jia, are you done yet? Hypedon stared at Jixingxian and coldly snorted. Why don't we compare notes with martial arts? Whoever wins gets it. How about it? Jixingxian looked at Hypedon with a smile. Let's talk with money. Hypedon looked at Chu Bei and tactfully said, Chapter 58. You two old men aren't alchemists. Why are you interfering? Just as Hypedon and Jixingxian were arguing, a purple figure flew out from box number 5. It was a white-haired old man. He's the president of the Empire's Alchemist Association, the Dharma Mammoth. Now it's even more lively. The crowd quickly recognized the Dharma Mammoth and exclaimed, I almost forgot that you're here too. Hypedon and Jixingxian looked at the Dharma Mammoth and then looked at the Huangdan in Chu Bei's hand. They hesitated for a moment and seemed to have made some kind of decision. That's right. Sensing the expressions of Hypedon and Jixingxian, the Dharma Mammoth smiled and said, the price now is not a small sum for any of you. It can even be said that once you take this item, the other grade 7 item, or even the higher grade 8 item will no longer have the ability to compete. At this point, the Dharma Mammoth turned his gaze to Chu Bei and raised a finger. I bid 100 million. Do the two of you want to continue bidding? Chu Bei looked at Hypedon and Jixingxian and said calmly. Hypedon and Jixingxian looked at each other and remained silent. The Dharma Mammoth's words had indeed touched their hearts. If they took the Huangdan, they would not be able to participate in the next auction. Since no one wants to bid, the Huangdan and the pill formula will go to box number 5. Chu Bei said calmly. Hearing Chu Bei's announcement, the Dharma Mammoth breathed a sigh of relief and put down the heavy stone in his heart. 100 million gold coins was all the wealth of the Alchemist Association for the past 10 years. He was really afraid that the two old men would stubbornly hold on to the pill formula. Next is the second grade 7 item. Chu Bei glanced at the crowd and pointed his finger. The second black box appeared. Clang clang. The black box exploded. Inside were 9 intertwined black chains. Aren't these ordinary chains intertwined? Could it be that the material is special? Could it be some kind of divine weapon? It doesn't look like its value is on the same level as the Huangdan and the pill formula. Everyone's eyes were fixed on the intertwined chains in Chu Bei's hands. Everyone's faces were filled with confusion. It's a defensive formation. It's a defensive formation. As Chu Bei spoke, he threw the 9 intertwined chains into the air. With a loud buzzing sound, the 9 iron chains quickly expanded and formed a hemispherical giant net that enveloped the entire auction house. The ends of the iron chains were inserted in 9 different directions, and the areas where the iron chains intersected with each other were covered with a layer of light film. This formation is controlled by the owner. It can defend against the attack of a 3-star dozong for up to 6 hours. Chu Bei pointed at the eye of the 9 chains formation and added, "It can defend against a 3-star dozong." After hearing Chu Bei's words, Jixingxian and Hypedon were eager to try. In the next moment, the 2 figures moved. They gathered all the strength in their bodies and attacked the formation. Bang! Accompanied by 2 earth-shattering sounds, only a ripple appeared at the place where the 2 of them attacked. There was no damage at all. Seeing the scene in front of them, Jixingxian and Hypedon became excited at the same time. They looked as if they were determined to win. This kind of defensive formation could protect a clan in times of danger. The starting price is still 50 million. Each increment must be no less than 5 million. Chu Bei's lips slightly opened. 55 million, 60 million, 65 million, 70 million, 75 million, 80 million. As soon as Chu Bei's voice fell, Jixingxian and Hypedon began to crazily bid. In a few seconds, the price had exceeded Huangdan's by 100 million. Only when Jixingxian called out 120 million did Hypedon stop. "Old ice, you left for decades. It can be seen that the Primer family is not that important to you. So there's no need to use up all your assets for this defensive formation." Jixingxian looked at Hypedon with a serious expression. "Moreover, there are still level 8 items." Hypedon hesitated for a moment, then said, "Fine. I don't want you to worry about the safety of the royal family after you die. With this formation, you won't have to worry in the underworld. I'll let you have it. Is there anyone else who wants to bid?" Chu Bei asked. 130 million. However, just when everyone thought that the 9-chain formation would fall into the hands of the royal family, a loud voice floated in the air. This voice did not come from the box, but from the seats below the stage. "Who is that guy? I've never seen him before. He's not here to cause trouble, right? What kind of joke is this? The one bidding is the one from the royal family. Who has the guts to cause trouble? Unless they don't want to live anymore." Whoosh! Everyone in the field, including Jixingxian, Hypedon, Dharma Mammoth, and the others, all looked at the 3rd row of the inner circle, a man in a black robe. Next to the man in the black robe sat a woman in green. Next to the woman in green were Xiao Yin, Xiao Suner, and the others. "Instructor Ruolin, have you taken a fancy to this 9-chain formation?" Xiao Yin looked curiously at the woman in green. "Our college is divided into the outer and inner courts. The inner court has a tower called the Blazing Sky Chi Refining Tower. Recently, this tower has been a bit restless. If there really is a problem one day, this formation should come in handy." The woman in green responded, "The tower is restless?" Xiao Yin looked even more confused. "You'll know when you enter the college." The woman in green said no more. At this moment, the man in the black robe stood up from his seat. "Boss Chu, my name is Luo Tian. I'm an instructor at Canaan College. I've been to your shop before. Do you still remember?" Luo Tian's gaze focused on Chu Bei. "What? Canaan College. I remember now. This is the time when Canaan College's instructors go out to recruit students. If Canaan College also takes a fancy to this formation, then the result will be hard to say. Yes, Canaan College is known throughout the continent as the holy land of cultivation. Who knows how many powerhouses it has cultivated? Its background is even more unimaginable." Knowing Luo Tian's identity, everyone in the field was shocked. I didn't expect Canaan College to also take a fancy to this formation. What's your bottom line? Jixingxian frowned. At all costs. Luo Tian responded. Hearing this, Jixingxian's face turned even uglier. After a long time, he relaxed. Fine, I'll give Canaan College some face. Is there anyone else who wants to bid? Chu Bei asked professionally. Since no one wants to bid, the 9-chain formation goes to Canaan College's instructor Luo Tian. Chu Bei announced the result. When the auction for the 9-chain formation ended, the audience looked at Chu Bei's hand movements. They all stood up and stared with their eyes wide open. They knew that the next item was the last item of the auction. It was also the most valuable of all the auction items. Chapter 59. Everyone, the next item to be auctioned is the last of the 6 items that I have brought this time. It is also the highest grade item. On the auction stage, Chu Bei's gaze swept across the crowd. With a wave of his sleeve, a purple square box appeared. Compared to the level 6 and 7 square boxes, the level 8 square box was surrounded by strands of colorful mist, making it look even more luxurious and noble. No one in the auction hall made any noise. Everyone stared at the purple square box, their eyes filled with anticipation. Bang! A loud sound rang out. A red and gold-colored armor appeared in front of everyone's eyes. When Chu Bei saw this armor, his expression froze. It was inexplicably familiar. At this moment, information about this armor flowed into Chu Bei's mind. This armor came from Iron Man Tony's 9th generation armor. Of course, it was also improved by the system. Boss Chu, quickly tell us. Jixingxian couldn't wait to speak. In his opinion, the most powerful person to obtain this armor was his royal family. Mark 9 battle armor. It has the ability to fly. There is an energy source stored in the chest. The arms have a variety of strange attacks. The palms can also shoot energy cannons. Chu Bei calmly looked at Jixingxian. As for what kind of battle power it can display, it depends on the strength of the owner. Speaking up to this point, Chu Bei added, if a 9-star Do Huang uses it, it can fight against a 3-star Do Zone. If a 3-star Do Zone wears it, it won't be weaker than a 6-star Do Zone. It has such an increase. After listening to Chu Bei's description of the Mark 9 battle armor, Jixingxian took a deep breath. His eyes were wide open. Hippodon's expression was also restless. Dharma Mammoth, Nailinjia, Mu Chun, and the others helplessly sighed. Because of this battle armor, the combat strength of different people with different strengths is different, so I can't demonstrate it to you. However, I guarantee that if the person who wins the bid wears this armor and doesn't have the boost that I mentioned earlier, the full amount of compensation will be 3 times the original amount. Chu Bei patted the armor in front of him lightly and said in a powerful and resonant voice, Boss Chu, we believe in you. Hurry up and tell us the starting price and the rules for increasing the price. Jixingxian was impatient. Haha, how can I not try such a good armor first? However, just as Chu Bei was about to speak, a mocking laugh drifted out from the crowd. Immediately afterward, the crowd felt the space around them fluctuate, and 2 figures, one gold and one silver, appeared above the auction stage like ghosts. One of the 2 figures was wearing a golden robe, while the other was wearing a silver robe. If one were to look closely, one would find that both of them were of the same build. Their hair and beards were white, and their facial features looked as if they were carved from the same mold. Mr. Gold Silver. While the crowd was still guessing the identity of the 2 gold and silver-robed elders, the expression of the Jialan Academy's instructor, Luo Tian, suddenly changed as he exclaimed. Hearing Luo Tian reveal the identity of the person who had appeared, Jixingxian, Hypedon, Dharma Mammoth, and the others were at a loss. After which, their expressions instantly became serious. Although they had never seen Mr. Gold Silver, they had heard of him. Due to the special terrain, the Dochi continent had given birth to the most chaotic region. Countless strong people from various countries who had fled had landed in this region and established the most barbaric rules. This region was called the Black Corner region. This Mr. Gold Silver was a famous top expert in the Black Corner region. Although the 2 of them were only at the peak of the Do Huang class, they were twins. Additionally, The Chi method they practiced was the same, so they complemented each other. If they were to fight against an enemy together, they could even fight against an ordinary 2-star Dozong. If they were to meet a 1-star Dozong, the 1-star Dozong could only flee. Why are they not in the Black Corner region? Why are they here? Let's not talk about the reason first. I'm afraid that the following auction will not be able to proceed normally. Jixingxian and Hypedon glanced at each other. There was an additional vigilance on their faces. If you are interested in the battle armor, you can participate in the auction. The highest bidder will get it. Chu Bei indifferently glanced at the gold-silver brothers. Although we are interested, we don't have the money. Therefore, we can only use another method. The golden-robed old man placed his hands behind his back. He had an arrogant expression. Not only that battle armor, we also want the 5 pieces that were auctioned earlier. The silver-robed old man laughed loudly. His face was treacherous. Hearing this, Chu Bei smiled and did not give any response. Attack. The golden-robed old man was too lazy to speak nonsense. As his cry sounded, his right palm rotated slightly. A majestic Do Chi was spat out from his palm, causing the surrounding space to tremble. This aura is indeed worthy of its reputation. Feeling the aura created by the golden-robed old man, Jixingxian and Hippodon's faces became increasingly gloomy. Chi. In the next moment, the golden-robed old man waved his sleeve. A powerful Do Chi pillar suddenly shot out from his sleeve. It tore through the void and targeted Chu Bei. Chu Bei did not dodge. Seeing that the Do Chi pillar was about to pierce through him, he extended his finger. Bang! The Do Chi pillar seemed to have collided with an invisible wall of light. It was accompanied by a low, muffled sound and turned into nothingness. You have some skills. Looking at his attack that had strangely disappeared, the golden-robed old man frowned. Then, he tilted his head to look at the silver-robed old man and communicated with his eyes. Immediately, the gold-silver brothers' figures quickly intertwined. 2 different types of powerful Do Chi that came from the same source began to intertwine and complement each other. Suddenly, an aura that far exceeded that of a peak Do Huang spread out. Under this terrifying aura, the people below instinctively propped up their Do Chi armor. At the same time, they nervously looked at Chu Bei with pity and sympathy on their faces. Die! His cold voice exploded like a clap of thunder. 2 figures, 1 gold and 1 silver, intertwined into a terrifying red and white light beam that shot toward Chu Bei at an extremely fast speed. Wherever the light beam passed, the void was faintly distorted. Its power was frightening. However, there was not a trace of fear in Chu Bei's eyes. Instead, there was a hint of playfulness in them. His body lowered slightly, and his hands formed the shape of a flower at his waist. When this action was formed, a strange buzzing sound suddenly came from the sky above the huge fighting arena. Then, countless dense light spots that could be seen with the naked eye gathered in Chu Bei's palm until they condensed into a ball of light. The ball of light grew bigger and bigger. The glaring light made it impossible for people to look directly at it. Chu Bei pushed out his hands. The ball of light shot out like a meteor, dragging a blue tail behind it. In the blink of an eye, the ball of light collided with the red and white light beams formed by the gold-silver brothers. Rumble. With a loud noise, the red and white light beams were directly swallowed by the ball of light. The gold-silver brothers did not even have time to scream before they were turned into nothingness in the ball of light. Not even their bones were left. In the end, the ball of light tore a huge gap in the void and entered it before exploding again. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Looking at the gap in the distant sky where the explosion occurred, coupled with the buzzing sound that kept reverberating in their ears. For a moment, everyone, including Jixingxian, Hypedon, and the Dharma Mammoth, fell into a trance. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.